Word.
And now we are actually live here on Plus One EXP's Roll for Content channel. My name is Tony Vicinda. I am Chief Alchemist
here at Plus One EXP, which is a weird little brand that multi-classes in tabletop game design, beard and skincare alchemy, and of course the Bardic College of Content Creation. Our hope and desire is to help connect amazing players with phenomenal designers whose games they can fall in love with. And we do that a lot of different ways, but the most fun way we do that is sitting down with those creators to play those games. It's exactly what we are doing tonight. Also, we want to give a shout out right off the top to Krispy Kreme. Thanks for the Prime sub. We really appreciate any way somebody wants to support the channel, and that is a great way to do it. So thank you so much. If you're out there watching in chat right now, go ahead and say hello and let us know where you're watching from. Or if you're watching later, drop us a comment to know where you're at. We are going to hand things over real quick, though, to the creator of the game we're playing tonight, Vow of the Knight-Aspirant, Alexi, Sargeant of Cloven Games, to tell us a little bit about the game we're about to play. Alexi, why don't you tell people who you are, what you do, and tell us about Vow of the Knight-Aspirants.
Sure thing. I'm Alexi Sargeant. I am the person behind Cloven Games, a game design brand putting out cool indie games like The Great Soul Train Robbery and Back Again from the Broken Land. This game, Vow of the Knight-Aspirants, is a game in development that is about Arthurian squires questing into a dark fairy tale wood, seeking the elusive Tower Perilous in order to prove themselves worthy of knighthood. It is a powered by the apocalypse game, making use of the game engine pioneered by Vincent and Mackay Baker. It is also strongly inspired by wonderful PBTA precursors like Masks from Magpie Games. And I have been having a lot of fun testing it out with various people online and in person, and it's cool to get to bring it to Plus One EXP here.
Always excited to have you play with us. We're huge fans of Cloven Games here at Plus One, and very excited to play this game. It's one of the few games that Alexia has created and the team there have created that I have not had a chance to play. And the playbook building and other things are phenomenal. Very excited to showcase a little bit more of those with y'all. But before we do that, let's dive in and meet some of our other players and talk about how we play here on Plus One EXP. We're going to just go around as I can see people on the screen. So, Jose, we're going to go to you next. Why don't you tell people who you are, what you do, and if you want to be found somewhere, tell them where to find you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jose, and I use he and him pronouns. I'm a psychologist, a university professor. I live on the West Coast. I usually play on the Gauntlet. I'm really happy to be here with all of you and excited to play this game. And I do not know where I can be found on the internet. Find me, then let me know.
Will do. Awesome. We're going to drop down right below you to Rosemont. Go ahead and tell people who you are, what you do, and if you want to be found online, where they can find you.
Hi, I'm Rosamond. I write novels, mostly kind of dark fairy tale retelling so far. I also knit. This is what I'm going to be doing tonight. And I can be found on Twitter at Rosamond Hodge, all one word, or more profitably on Instagram at Rosamond_Hodge, where you can see all of my dog pictures. My dog is very, very, very cute.
Awesome. We love a good dog picture. We also love a good stream knit, and are very excited to have you here with us. I think you may have played once before with us. I know you and I have played together, but I can't remember if it was on stream or not, but I'm very excited to play with you again. And then somebody else I've had a chance to share a table with in the past, and that's Brian. Brian, why don't you tell people who you are, what you do, and again, if you want to be found online, tell people where to find you.
Yeah, I'm Brian. I'm a software engineer at a medium-sized startup, and like all good software engineers, I try not to be found online or even really at a computer when I can help it.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you're punishing yourself tonight and sitting down and playing with us. Hello to Daniel Feek out in the stream, also too in the chat. Somebody who we had a chance to play some of Alexi's games with in the past, and who we always love a chance to sit down and play with. And Hessen, Brian, who's one of our regulars. Glad to have y'all here with us, and glad to dive in. We use a couple different tools here on stream whenever we play, because we are oftentimes playing with new people and new systems. We want to make sure our games stay on track, and that everybody feels comfortable engaging in play. So we use tools, we use tools called Lines, Veils, the X card, and we have an open door policy. So lines are things that may happen in the world of the game, but they do not happen in the course of our play of it. There are things that we've set off limits. Veils are things that may happen in the course of our play, but they're handled in a certain capacity. So that might be just mentioning that they happen and flashing forward, or fading to black, or only addressing a certain type of content within a certain context. All those things are things that could be placed underneath veils. And then we have the X card, which is the ability to say, type X, or just ask us to pause, identify what the issue is. You don't have to explain why you don't like it. You just have to say, hey, here's what I don't like. We'll move that out, and then we'll put something else in. It could be because of confusion, because you find something objectionable. We might update our lines and veils as we go at that point in time also. And then last but not least, the open door policy. We're real people who are playing a game for fun. And so we may need to get up, move around, talk to people off stream, eat, drink, or otherwise take care of ourselves or step off for a minute. If that happens, we'll just keep play going. Though we might take a break if Alexi or somebody else needs to step off for a moment also too. But we are going to take care of ourselves. We invite all of y'all to do the same. With that said, we have a couple of strong lines here on the channel against sexual violence and sexual coercion. And I know that in our character keeper, we went ahead and set up a few more underneath the safety tools and resources section. So we have veils on a couple different things. There we go. Lines on sexual violence, peril to pregnant women or infants, homophobia, transphobia, and veils on sex, dental trauma, and torture. Does anybody else have any other lines or veils they want to add?
Seems like a good list.
Cool. Again, we
And if something comes up during the game that we want to add as a line or veil, we can do that. This is a living document.
Yep. Awesome. With that said, Alexi, I'm going to hand things over to you to take us into Vow of the Knight-Aspirants.
Sure. So a tool I like to use to introduce a game is something called CATS, and that stands for concept, aim, tone, and subject matter. So I'll just do a little CATS rundown of Vow of the Knight-Aspirants. I talked a little bit about the concept, but just to reiterate, you are squires on the cusp of knighthood, venturing into the treacherous Bleakwood on a quest to prove yourselves worthy and discover the elusive Tower Perilous. What wrongs will you right and lessons will you learn along the way? So what we're playing is a game of fantasy adventure inspired by Arthurian legends, fairy tales, and classic young adult fantasy stories like Tamara Pierce's Tortle books, for one. I'll say this here because I feel like this is kind of part of the concept of the game. The playbooks here, the character archetypes, the character sheets are modular. So Tony, tell me if this works.
I'm actually gonna rearrange things real quick because I want people to get a little bit better sense of what you're doing. So give me a shake, and I'm gonna make you real big on the screen so that people can see what you're doing, because it is a very cool thing and one of my favorite parts about the game. Here we go. All right, now people can see you big. If right in front of your face is the best place to hold things up.
Okay, then I will hold it right in front of my face. So here is what the playbooks look like when printed out, and you'll see there are two parts to it, and each part has a heraldic motif on it. And so you would put together your character by saying, I'm going to be the stag and the oak, or I'm going to be the jackdaw and the oak. And each half of the playbook gives elements of your character. There's a temperament half and an aspiration half, and they tell us about who your character is and who they want to be, and you can mix and match them to create your aspiring young knight. So that being said about the concept of the game, our aim tonight is to play out a kind of good demo session. Creating and introducing a set of squires, and then getting to see them in the midst of an adventure within the Bleakwood. We'll be doing it kind of as a one shot, and there are rules for how a one shot works, where the XP, which is notches, like notches you've marked on your sword along the way, right? The XP feeds into your epilogue for a one shot. So just because it's a one shot doesn't mean notches aren't important. That will help determine the tone of your epilogue. Speaking of tone, obviously Arthurian legends vary widely in tone, and I'd say the tone we're going for here is in line with that kind of young adult fantasy storytelling that I alluded to. So probably PG-13, rating wise, but there can be darker things, in this world, right? It's a dark fairy tale wood. Your characters don't default to violence as the solution to all problems, I'd say. Maybe the tiger does, but violence is a possible solution that's on the table, right? This isn't a My Little Pony game, so there's always the chance that blades are drawn and lethal violence ensues. That said, the tone is not cynical, right? The tone is very much about characters working through their ideals, possibly developing or nuancing them. But I'd say as a game, it does not push towards discarding ideals, but rather kind of letting them grow and mature. Tony, how we doing? I know we just had a little shuffle there.
We're good. We moved around. I'll take care of all that stuff. You don't have to worry about it. Yeah, I mean, if somebody drops out by accident, usually I just let it sit until that person lets us know either they are or aren't topping back on. And then so if that happens, just let it go, and I'll take care of it all on my end.
Sounds good to me. Subject matter, you should expect there may be some violence, there may be action and adventure, there could be big teenage feelings, because despite being merely knights, you are also teenagers, right? That's the nature of being a squire. And there could be weird magical darkness going on in the Bleakwood. Absolutely. Any questions about concept, aim, tone, or subject matter based on what I just went through there?
Nope.
Fantastic. Well, we've done some good work building these characters already. Maybe I'll mention a handful of mechanical things, and then we'll introduce the player characters. So
good.
As I said, it's a Powered by the Apocalypse game. If you are a viewer who's familiar with games, wonderful games like Masks, like Apocalypse World itself, like Urban Shadows, you will kind of recognize the core of this game, where when there's a moment of uncertainty in the fiction, we're often turning to a list of moves, seeing what move triggers, and rolling 2d6 to see what happens, where a total roll of a 10 plus is a full hit and the character mostly gets what they want. A 7 to 9 is a partial hit where the character gets some of what they want, but maybe has to make some compromises or hard choices along the way. And a 6 minus is a miss, meaning that the fate of the character is in the GM's hands, and the GM is enjoined to make things interesting. That is kind of the basic mechanical building block that I've drawn from other Powered by the Apocalypse games. A few tweaks here are the mechanic of heart. So heart is a resource that characters gather and spend. It's a little bit like tokens from Belonging Outside Belonging games, if you're familiar with those. But basically, each character's playbooks give them ways to both gain heart and to spend heart. So, for example, I'm looking at the Jackdaw, who's a very jocular squire, and the Jackdaw can take heart when they pull off a ridiculous stunt, crack a joke in the face of fear or tension, or undercut someone who's being far too serious. So those are ways that playbook would gain heart. And then the other side of the playbook gives you ways to spend heart. So if you were the Oak, for example, you could spend 3 heart to sing a song of protection that stills violence for as long as it sounds. And those are kind of mechanics that go outside the dice entirely, right? Like if you spend the heart, you can do the thing, and the fiction is changed. Your character has done this thing that might be ambiguously to definitely magical, and spending the heart is what lets you do that. Other mechanical tweaks here. Lessons are an important concept. Your character starts with some lessons they have learned. They might learn some more lessons along the way. And when you are making a move, if you are embodying one of your lessons, you get a bonus dice. You get advantage. You roll 3 and pick the top 2. If you are defying one of your lessons, if you are acting in a way contrary to something you have learned, you get a bonus dice as well, but it's a disadvantage dice. So you roll 3 and you take the worst 2. Why would you want to do that? Well, that's one of the ways you get experience. So the notches, the experience, a main way you get that is by choosing to defy a lesson. And hey, if you defy a lesson and succeed, you get to rewrite the lesson to show how you've learned or grown. But even if you defy a lesson and lose and end up in the GM's hands and things get worse for you, it's all good because you have marked a notch, and we're seeing your character grow, even if we're seeing them grow through struggle and trial and tribulation. There are conditions in this game, which will be familiar to folks who have played Masks or the Avatar RPG. Conditions cut against your stats. They make it a little harder to roll. Your stats are knightly virtues, courtesy and valor and perseverance and cheer and ingenuity. But the conditions cut against those. And just to make things fun, I am willing to offer to any PC that wants to start off with a condition marked to also take a notch at the start. So if you're feeling excited to get a free notch, you can have that if you choose to mark one of the conditions here, and just in our opening narration, I'll have you say why your character is currently wrathful or downcast or whatever condition you have chosen. Yes. What do you choose? What condition are you picking, Tony? Fearful. Fun. Any other takers? That's all right.
Where's the list of conditions again?
On the character keeper.
Yeah, they're at the top right next to the stats. But if you want to know more about them, you can click on the actual condition itself, and it'll pop up a little bit more information about them. So for me, for instance, fearful, I gain a heart when I run away from facing danger or difficulty. Clear fearful when you spend some time somewhere sacred and pray for courage.
Also, -2 valor. Don't forget that part.
I am not forgetting that part.
Put me in for downcast.
Beautiful. I like it. So we'll learn a little bit about kind of what this entails in the fiction as we meet these characters and get into the action.
And can you put me down for wrathful?
I'm loving it.
Yeah, let's have one of each. That's great.
Everybody wants free experience.
It's the way to go.
You got to play a one-shot character, like you stole it. And
so
I'm feeling peer pressure here.
I mean, or you could be the prudent one who's like, no thanks, I'm good. I'll not.
Someone needs to be able to
inflict the condition on myself to start the session.
I think I will be the prudent one then. I think my character is kind of prudent.
Excellent. Then why don't we? Speaking of these characters, why don't we introduce them? I would love to go across the character keeper left to right and hear a little bit about the characters you've chosen. So please tell us your character's name, tell us the playbooks you chose for them, and a little bit about the concept behind them. So Rosamund, if you would start us off, please.
Yes. So my character is named Isabel. She is using the Serpent and the Clarion playbooks, so her background is that. Sorry, I'm scrolling to the little paragraph I wrote.
I saw you picked Heir of the Usurper as your background.
Yes. Her father, Duke Maddock, attempted to lead a rebellion against the king and nearly succeeded because of his. He had studied dark sorcery, but then the king's wizards defeated and killed him in a duel. And then afterwards, the king found Isabel as a baby at her father's castle, which had been nearly abandoned by all his servants and retainers. There was just the one serving maid still taking care of her. And so she's been raised as kind of a ward of the king, determined to prove that he was correct in showing her mercy. She has inherited her father's legendary silver tongue and talent for stirring others to action, but she prefers to keep silent and let her sword do the talking.
This is amazing. I love it. And this is great because I like this interpretation of what the playbooks are doing, because the Clarion is an aspiration playbook that touches on the idea of leadership. And you have the heart ability to spend 3 heart to give an NPC a one-word command that cannot be disobeyed. But it sounds like that's not something Isabel, defaults to doing. More of
No.
a last resort, desperate straits sort of thing. Anything else we should know about Isabel before we meet our next squire?
I think that's pretty much it.
Well, I love it. Love the drama of this backstory. I am sure there will be no complications from being the heir of the usurper as you venture into these woods at the edge of the kingdom. It's great. Then, character keeper Brian, you would be next. Would you please tell us about your character?
Yeah, so I'm playing Person. He's the tiger in the hourglass. So I guess we'll get to moves and stats and stuff as we need them. So just background.
Yeah, background would be great.
Yeah, so he is the son of a fur trader who sort of everybody imagined would grow up to be a fur trader or something in that general genre. But when he was a little kid, he started getting visions. And, you know, they don't all come true. They aren't all bad, but...
it sounds like many are bad and come true.
Yeah, you know. And so he sort of went through his late childhood with giving people warnings where things turned out better for them if they listened. And then he got a bad vision, a scary vision, vague, cryptic, unhelpful, apocalyptic vision. And he has sort of, lacking some other way of handling that, gone into fighting evil as the thing that he does. So he, you know, fought with his parents until they let him walk away from the mercantile life and take up a sword. And so he's, you know, learning to address evil with violence as well as warnings and taking well to both.
I like this. This is a combination I've never seen before of the tiger and the hourglass. So you've got a temperament playbook that is about force, aggression, right? Trying to solve things with threats and or violence, and you've also got the aspiration playbook where, as the hourglass, you see visions of the future. You're kind of burdened with this foreknowledge, and I love the idea that your kind of tiger-like traits have emerged from the burden of foreknowledge. And yes, there's a tiger move about threatening. There's a hourglass extra about visions and attempts to avert them. So I'm excited for all of that. Anything else we should know about Person before we move on?
No, just that he's very itchy, a little bit paranoid, but pretty resolute when it actually comes down to dealing with injustice.
Yeah. Makes sense. Okay. Then, Jose, you're up next. Tell us, please, about your character.
Sure. I'm playing Tristan, and his pronouns are he and him. And Tristan grew up in a small village to a poor family with, there were too many mouths to feed in his family. And at a young age, his parents apprenticed, maybe they sold him to a hedge witch named Modrone, who lived on the edge of Bleakwood. And she was knowledgeable, but not very kind. And she taught him the ways of the forest and the lore of plants. But she also exploited these natural gifts that he has for healing for her own lucre. After coming of age, he began to have these recurring dreams that called him to travel to Luthenville and to become a knight. And against Modron's wishes, he pursued this path. And upon arrival, he was appointed a squire to Sir Abelard, who perceived a flame for truth in the boy's heart, but was uncertain about his chances of ever becoming a knight. People doubt him. Combat's a relatively new skill for him, but he took quickly to the quarterstaff. More challenging has been learning courtly etiquette. He's covered in earthen tattoos that honor spirits of the forest that he has encountered and the ancestors that visit him in dreams. He's graceful in movement, but he lacks refinement. And he's introspective, but he's actually quite curious about other people since he's lived a relatively lonely life in the forest with Modrone.
This is great. I love that, unlike some other squires, this character probably feels like more comfortable in the forest on this quest than he would feel back at a court or dealing with a diplomatic situation or the like.
Yeah, that's not going to go well.
But yeah, it sounds like your vision is that the tattoos he have like really mark him out, like that you would never expect a squire or a knight to have those sort of markings.
Covered in dirt. Yes. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. So as the rabbit, you have a move about going to ground, where you can try and use some stealth. Yes.
Mhm.
And as the chalice, you have the chance to try and heal people, and actually some bonuses for helping people clear their conditions. So in some ways, I've helped you out by having all of your companions mark conditions here at the start.
Yes, I can help them all now. Perfect.
Fantastic. Anything else we should know about Tristan before we meet our last squire here?
I don't think so. I think that's a good intro.
Beautiful. All right. Then last but not least, Tony, please tell us about your character.
Yeah, so I'm playing Ancre Dupont. So Ancre was raised by the Order of Saint Eudosia as one of the marks. So basically, he was raised to be a knight, but my mentor died when I was 4 years old, attempting to stop the uprising of Duke Matic. He because of this and because of the Seedland invaders, there's most of the other members of the order have been spread thin. So my martial training has gone incredibly unnoticed and unattended to. I've very low valor and very rarely am found outside the libraries, study halls, and courtly spaces that members of the order kind of frequent. I learned the lessons of the order well, though, and I am fixated on the wild tales, lore, and rumors that surround the tower. I am also old for a squire. I am tall, and I do stand out in a crowd, and I am fairly. It's fairly noticeable that I probably should be a knight already. I am pushing the edge of what might be appropriate for a squire to be. But I've not been able to convince Abbess Latre that my time has come. Maybe some knowledge of the world would help me, but I am terrified to leave the safety of my study. And so I did write down some semblance of a lesson. Paper will cut as readily as blade. Both scars bear wisdom. However, one is far more survivable than the other.
Yeah. So as the owl, you are a big nerd. Essentially.
Yep.
Right. So yeah. So more of a scholar than a fighter here. But I love that you're part of this order that expects you to fight. They just haven't been able to prepare you the way they'd want to.
Yeah. And in the order, really, the commitment of the order is like we stop fights before they start. It is diplomatic in nature. We are intended to be scholars, but the concept is we understand that force doesn't always work. I don't know that. I don't get that. I'm like, why would we ever need to fight? That doesn't make any sense. And so I have a scholarly background, ink stained hands. I have a polearm that actually looks kind of like a giant quill, and I have searching eyes.
Oh man, that's such a great touch that the polearm looks like a pen mightier than a sword. Ancre Dupont. Nice. Anything else we should know about Ancre, Tony?
No, and yeah, Daniel Feig did Google translate what that means, and it does literally just mean ink pot. Ancre Dupont means ink pot.
I thought it might. That's wonderful. So you should know before I fixed exactly what the names of all the playbooks were. What was going to be what would become the owl was called the Inkwell playbook. So you're extremely on point with your character's name.
Love it. Yeah.
Okay, so here's where we mesh these squires together into a party. I want each of you to tell me when you. I guess, yeah. So the best thing to do here is actually everyone should say just their lessons, just the two lessons they start off with, and we'll go across the character keeper just saying those, and then each of you will get a chance to talk about which other squire lives by ideals you admire, and which of them has aspirations that you question. So, a kind of like positively and negatively valenced comment on the lessons and kind of general ideals of your fellow squires and fellow questers. Rosamund, start us off once more by just read your lessons out. We'll go across, read all these lessons, and then probably starting with Tony, go back across the keeper, evaluating lessons.
No one is immune to the glamour of evil,
Mm,
and leaders carry others and keep their pain to themselves.
beautiful. Great. Brian.
When faced with wickedness, strike without hesitation or compunction.
Mm-hmm.
And knowledge, even of misfortune, is a priceless gift.
Jose?
The safest path is the least direct one. And the first step towards healing is acknowledging one's wounds.
Great. And Tony?
Everything secret is worth uncovering. Try as hard as you can to understand someone's point of view before judging them.
That's fantastic. So, Tony, which of your fellow squires lives by lessons you admire, and which has ideals that you question?
I'm so tempted to say the same one for both.
I mean, if there's someone you have profoundly mixed feelings about, that can work.
Person that gives me profoundly mixed feelings, I think. I do think I'm gonna go ahead and say that I admire the safest path is the least direct one. I think resonates very strongly with that. So Tristan, I think, is the one that I kind of admire. The way that they live, there seems to be a desire for self-understanding, which is kind of a first step towards understanding others also too, at least in my mind, whether or not Tristan interprets it that way. Yeah, and I think every time I talk to person, I start like this person has a totally different view on the world, and then halfway through I'm like, that I don't agree with. I don't like it at all. Like, it starts off pretty okay, and then I'm like, nope, it just shifts halfway through. I think is the way that typically goes down.
Beautiful. Yeah, sound good to the other players? Great. So, Jose, to you, who lives by lessons you admire and whose ideals do you question?
Let's see. I think maybe Isabel. I admire the no one is immune to the glamour of evil. Because I've seen, my own mentor, stepmother, Modrone, give way to evil in many moments. And even though I feel warmly towards her, I can see the temptation that has overwhelmed her many times, and I've been the butt of that. And I think, I'm sorry to say this, Ancre, but I think Ancre's thought that every secret is worth uncovering is one that I don't agree with. I think some secrets are best left secrets, and I think I'll leave it at that.
I love that.
Fantastic. Yeah. Then next person.
Yeah, so I feel like my feelings about Ancre are less complicated than his feelings about me, because I have not necessarily processed how hesitant he is to fight yet. So I see him as someone who's curious and who cares about the truth, and who's willing to deal with the ugly parts of that. And I might be overestimating that a little bit. So I admire everything secret is worth uncovering. I do not admire the safest path is the least direct one. I think I don't, it's both parts of me don't like that. Both the part that's constantly trying to avert dark prophecies and the part of me that just wants to punch evil in the face right now think that is completely wrong.
Yeah, so very, very direct, whether in a martial or a mystical way, and very skeptical of this this lesson that Tristan lives by. Yeah, sounds like well, makes sense to me. then Isobel, how do you feel about the ideals of your fellow squires?
Well, I definitely admire Person for his determination when faced with wickedness, strike without hesitation or compunction. I feel that is 100% the correct attitude to take. And I just feel a lot more secure around people who are direct. And probably the person I dislike the most.
Ooh.
But
I didn't say you have to dislike them. You just have to question their ideals.
well, okay,
But you
the person
can
who's-
dislike them
the
if you
person
want
whose
to.
ideals I question the most is definitely Tristan, because of, the first step towards healing is acknowledging one's wounds, and I think that's a profoundly selfish way to look at things. You should just grow up and get over it already.
Don't process trauma, just
Yeah.
push forward.
Yeah, never acknowledge wounds. That's how they get you. I love
What a party.
I love those two lessons because I feel like inevitably the Clarion and the Chalice end up in some conflict about whether you should acknowledge your wounds or not. So that's good. I like this.
What good game design.
Yes, whoever built this thing was really smart.
Thinking deep about that.
Okay. I like it. I like these characters. I think let's see a little bit of them in action. We have a little bit of time before our planning on our first break, so I think we can definitely drop in and see our squires. So you've been questing together for a little while, right? Like the four of you have ended up, on this mission, this quest to find the elusive Tower Perilous, which, according to the Wizard Kestrel, holds magical secrets that will be sorely needed by the kingdom. And the four of you have this chance to prove yourselves, because if you can find the Tower Perilous and uncover its secrets, then surely you will have shown that you are ready for the responsibilities of knighthood. As you travel through the Bleakwood, you've encountered some dangers and challenges along the way, but at this moment, all seems calm outwardly, and yet something tells you as you move through the forest here that there is fear pervading this part of the Bleakwood. Ancre, give me a sense of kind of what the audience sees as sort of an introductory shot of Ancre, and then tell me how you can tell that fear pervades the woods here.
I think we see kind of an initial overhead shot of everybody kind of traveling forward. We don't get necessarily a sense of anyone except for like a sense of who is who from overhead until like Ancre passes over and there's a very obvious book that's open. I think the forest we see dark around us, and Ancre is dressed slightly too vibrantly to be in this space. It is standing out maybe a little bit more than intended, but is completely unaware of this fact. And I think like we hear him kind of half like mumbling about like what it looks like when this kind of obscure passage from this book of lore about the woods themselves, and like what it's like when a time of darkness draws near, and some signs and symbols. And then there's a mention of like ravens, as all of a sudden we see birdshot like scatter up above us, like cawing out, and then like whipping past everybody in this dark wooded space.
I love it. So you're reading while walking here.
Reading while walking, which is a habit I have also that my wife hates, and so
so you're putting a little of yourself,
personal spin on that.
Beautiful. Tristan,
yeah.
Give us the sense of what what the audience initially sees from you, and then how does it become very apparent to you that there is a fear pervading this this part of the Bleakwood?
I think we see Tristan. I think he's wearing some kind of very muted colors, like some maybe muted greens and kind of earth tones. And we see him kind of separating himself from the group at times, and then rejoining, as if he's kind of getting the sense of the forest. He's used to being in a forest, but as we see him kind of crouch and listen, when he can tell that there is too much silence. He's looking about, he's listening, and he's like, there's too much silence around him, and he has a worried expression on his face because he's never been in a forest so quiet before. Other than the flapping of the wings of the crows on occasion, he's not hearing anything. And then he looks back at his comrades and he shakes his head because he thinks they're going to be consumed by this forest.
Person, what are our kind of initial images of person, and how does he react to this sense of fear that seems to be building?
I think person is at the front of the group. Like, he's, maybe it's because he's very active. Maybe it means because, he doesn't have to watch his back. I think we see bags under his eyes, like the nightmares have been unusually bad lately.
Right. Oh, yes, you are downcast.
Yeah. And I think that he just treats the fear of the forest as one more tool in his own awareness. He doesn't, there's something unsettling about the silence, but that just makes it that much easier to hear an ambush, right? And so I think he's, the world is scary. That's just a thing we integrate and work with. And being in a place that sort of acknowledges that isn't exactly comforting, but there's a way to settle into it.
Great. So you are on alert, thinking, well, if there's this unnatural quiet, at least I'll hear whatever's coming. Let me then, Isabel, I have a different question for you. So still tell us a little bit about how we first see Isabel, but then I'm going to say, you come across the very edge of a small village in these woods. And Isabel, the question for you is, how can you tell that this village was once loyal to your father, the usurper?
So I am striding right, I'm blanking people's names already, right behind Ancre, because I have already decided he's clearly the one who's going to get himself killed unless I stop it. So I've been kind of bodyguarding him for the last few days. He still hasn't noticed, that I can tell. And I'm dressed pretty plainly in like a dark cloak and plain armor, but my sword is actually, there's this glittering golden lion's head on the hilt with ruby eyes. And this is actually my father's sword, reforged when I turned 16, which I have determined to carry with me on my journey of knighthood, both a form of atonement and a challenge to everyone who thinks I'm evil. Yeah. And so the reason I know that the village once followed my father is that I see the faded remains of one of his banners with that same lion's head emblazoned upon it.
Amazing. Fantastic. And crazy that they still have that up. Like, that is not the sort of banner that you want, Knights of King Hadithar to see you flying. person, you were on high alert, so you're the one who can hear that there is definitely someone watching you. Someone trying to be stealthy, but not stealthy enough from like the eaves, from like up on the roof of one of these outlying cottages. You can't see them, but you hear the not disguised enough breathing.
Nice. Well, we're all sort of scared and itchy. Is this do I get to call this an imminent danger?
Interesting. Why do you ask that question?
Because when I trust my reflexes to avert an imminent danger, things happen.
What might that look like?
So how high up is this sound coming from?
The roof of an outlying cottage. Okay,
so taller than us, but not necessarily a bunch taller than us.
I'd say that's probably fair.
I think, I let myself get close. Like, I let us get a little bit closer. And then I break in a run directly for the sort of back of the roof where I expect this person to attempt to escape to. And I'm gunning for a tackle.
Amazing. So like cutting off any way for someone to escape here.
Yeah.
Cool. Go ahead and roll with the Valor for when you trust your reflexes.
Woo. Oh boy. Okay, we're starting off strong. That's my good stat, and that's 6.
You're a 6?
We are having one of those days.
It's great.
So
hypothetically someone could help with heart, or we should let this ride.
This is 6,
no,
right?
Absolutely.
I'm gonna go ahead and help with heart. With a heart. I just been looking at that move, and I think I pop my nose up out of the book, and I just completely unaware of what's been going on, very loudly just say, "There's supposed to be a village right here," not even aware of what it is, drawing that person's attention away as Tiger runs up. As person runs up.
Okay, so Tony, you spend a heart to assist, and that pushes that 6 up to a 7. So on a 7,
7 and 9,
go ahead. Yes.
On a 7 and 9, I scrape by, but I undergo an ordeal in the process.
Cool. I think. Okay, so your plan was that in your ideal version of this, you would end up leaping up to tackle the person, or if you think the person's gonna
version of this, I intercept exactly where they climb off the back of the roof and catch them in a tackle as they're landing.
Nice.
No, there are no extra steps in this plan. I'm sure this is just gonna work.
Beautiful. I think something like that will absolutely happen, and the main question is whether the crossbow they're holding goes off in the process. So when you undergo an ordeal, choose one. So this is a move that is just a binary choice, right? Grit your teeth and press on. You hold your ground but mark a condition. Stumble, hesitate, or flinch, giving the opposition an opportunity. Mark a notch.
Oh man. Let's go with. Let's take the condition.
Cool. So I'm sort of picturing that what that means is you take a crossbow bolt to some non-crucial part of your body, but you hold on to the person and they don't escape, right?
And I'm pissed.
Have you marked wrathful? So that makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah. So basically, so it all happens. This all happens really fast, right? This was a trust your reflexes roll. So this was about quick action. So it's taken us a while to describe it, but in fact, from everyone else's perspective, right? Person just goes charging suddenly, and then there's a sound of ah no, and then twang, and then a grunt, right? And when the rest of you turn around, go around to the other side of this little hut, you see person is on the ground, grappling with a kind of a young man who's dressed like a hunter, and he's got this crossbow that has gone off, sticking a bolt in person's shoulder, and he is struggling, saying "Let me go. What are you doing here?"
What are you doing here?
This is my village.
It's a village hung with traitor banners.
Nice.
Did you
So
forget who the king is?
This is great. So you're going for the high-handed introduction, to the villager that your friend has just tackled / gotten shot by a little bit. Okay.
Yeah. I lost some of my courtesy stats because I'm wrathful.
I see. Yeah, so not the most courteous of intros.
I think we should all calm down. I think someone's already been hurt. I think that we need to be very careful about what happens next. And so if we could all just pause, take a breath, and just focus on what's important right now.
Are you pleading with your allies to be more careful?
Absolutely. I'm pleading with my allies to be more careful.
Go ahead and take a heart. And person, do you think you charged into danger ahead of any allies?
Yes. Yeah, definitely yes.
Okay, so that's a heart trigger for you too.
Nice.
But Isabel, it sounds like you're not defiantly flaunting your heritage here. We'll see if the time comes for that. So the young man on the ground who's still sort of struggling with person, but is also distracted by being addressed by these other newcomers, says, "What do you outsiders care? Whose banners hang here? No one from Luthenville has come this way in years. Whoever the king is, he's forgotten about us long ago."
I don't care. It's fine.
I'm Maddox's only daughter, and I care that you're still honoring that traitor.
Well, that would be defiantly flaunting your heritage. There's he stops struggling and stares. Is this triggering a move? I think you've just stunned him here, and now there's the chance for anyone else to intervene or attempt something, but he is speechless and no longer struggling after you've declared who you are.
Sorry, quick question out of character. Alexi, are you marking up things like hearts in the character keeper as we go, or do we do that ourselves?
Please do that yourself. It's going to be
Gotcha.
So we'll do
There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on. If you trigger a heart, if you do a heart trigger and I don't call it out, which may well be the case, just call it out yourself. Be like, hey, would you say I just such and such? And I'll be like, oh yes, definitely mark heart for that. But yes.
Speaking of which, Isabel, you've got a notch from Alexi's opening offer.
Yes. Mark your notches when you for taking those early conditions.
Remind me where the notches are.
There, it's a drop-down menu right underneath the conditions that you can take up as you go.
Oh, gotcha. Thank you.
No problem. Look, I think we should all calm down. I mean, maybe they have a good reason for flying the banners. I mean, they mentioned they don't feel like they're getting a lot of help from the kingdom. Maybe there's something that they need. Let's again slow down and find
Who
out
are
maybe,
you?
maybe why they still have them up.
Who are
Have
you
considered that
primarily
they might
addressing
need
here?
vanquishing?
I think I am talking to Isabel from behind Isabel. Like I am. It is very clear that like I do tower over like her a bit. Like there's a good foot of extra height there. But if it's possible to look like you are cowering behind somebody you are still 8 inches above, like that is the appearance that we are affecting here. And so I'm talking to Isabel, but also kind of I think imploring, like now's a good time to speak up if you've got a good excuse to the individual who we've come upon.
Yes, the hunter. Okay. It sounds maybe like you're beseeching a boon.
I am. I also would say that I'm potentially trying hard to understand someone else's point of view before judging them, which means I'm also applying a lesson, which means I theoretically think I roll with advantage.
Yeah,
situation.
I think that sounds right. You're living up to your lesson to try to understand people's point of view. So you can go ahead and roll beseech a boon with advantage.
All right. So that was a 1, a 6, and a 2, which is an 8 plus 1, which is 9. And so if somebody wants to help, we can get up to a 10. But I also don't know that anybody's really in a position to right now, particularly. So
Okay, let's
probably
talk
not.
about beseeching a boon, right? When you beseech a boon from someone willing to listen, say what you offer in return and roll plus courtesy. And it sounds like you're primarily just offering like, hey, we can probably help if we, take a minute to talk things through calmly. Okay.
I'm offering basically a little bit of placation, but also like maybe we can help you out and this doesn't have to be a fight.
Since this is sort of a slightly two-pronged boon, I think plausibly both Isabel and the villager get the chance to weigh in with what they think about your offer. And as it says, on a 10 plus, they must grant the boon if they can, or if they cannot, lay bare their heart about exactly why. And on a 7 and 9, they can demand something costlier than what you offered.
Can I throw a heart at this?
You can tell me how you're able to assist.
I mean, I'm as the person currently grappling with the target here, I feel like
Yes.
I have like a fair amount of leeway to show him a little bit of goodwill.
Mm-hmm.
I think I do sort of like a rough shove and brushing off the slightly bleeding place where I was like grazed by the crossbow bolt, and I like give him a look that is like solemn but non-threatening, like a pre-threatening look. Like I am declining to threaten you right now in a show of goodwill.
But I reserve the right to threaten you later.
You're pointedly not threatening him, but in a way that makes clear you could threaten him if you wanted to do that.
Right. Yes, good. You guys understand.
So,
and I'm spending a heart on that.
Beautiful. So that pushes it to a 10. So it's a beseech a boon 10. They must grant the boon if they can, or if they cannot, lay bare their heart about exactly why. Isabel, do you want to respond to this beseechment first, or should we have the NPC go first and then you next?
I think have the NPC go first because I'm going to be really affected by what he does.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. He kind of similarly brushes himself off a bit after having been released by person, and he says, "Fine, you want to do this the polite way now? Sure. I'm Draenen. This is the village of Alfgar's Knoll. As I said, haven't seen, knights or whatever you are in a long time. So we tried to build one of our own, but it's just made things worse. So if you can help us get rid of this thing, maybe you're not so bad after all."
What? There's a thing?
It's like a hedge magic thing, right?
I'm
Like
gonna
a-
give
like a
I'm gonna
s-
give I think I'm gonna give Tristan like an inquisitive look.
Like a scarecrow, but it can ride around and fight things, or it's supposed to.
Um,
I think-
that sounds exciting.
So I think Tristan has been in the shadows so far, and
yeah.
and he steps out from behind the eaves and puts his hand on person shoulder and forces him to sit down on a stump there because he wants to examine the wound. I don't know if it was a graze or if the bolt went straight through or the bolt's still in there. We're a little unclear on this, and he wants to examine the wound. But as he's doing that, he doesn't even look up from the wound as he's and I don't know how person is responding to this.
We'll find out in a moment.
And I know that that Isabel still has a reaction to make. But as he's examining the wound, he doesn't even look at the boy. What's his name? Drainan?
Drainan, yeah.
Drainan.
I've put him in our NPCs tab so you can picture what I'm picturing here.
And he says, the scarecrow doesn't sound natural. Perfect opportunity for us to show our knightly virtue, don't you think, friends? And he's not looking up from the wound as he says it. He knows that'll tweak Isabel and person both who are eager for valor.
That's good. Okay, so yeah, so Isabel, how do you respond?
So I lift up my sword, like holding it by the sheath, not drawing it, so everyone can see the insignia on the hilts. And I say, I swore to give this symbol a new meaning. Perhaps I'm meant to start that here. If we can protect your village, we will.
Very nice. So I think you have granted the boon that Ancre was asking for, since you've switched from hostile to helpful towards Drainan and his village. You get to gain a heart because when you beseech a boon from a fellow PC, right? If the PC grants the boon, they can gain a heart. Drainan kind of like gives a like cautious nod to that and gets up saying like, all right, well, you better follow me then. Why don't we take that as a moment to take a pause, and when we come back we'll check in first about Tristan checking on person. So let's take 10 for a break. Does that work,
We'll
Tony?
be back right after these messages. Yeah,
There we go.
In just a few minutes, everybody, to keep on playing. In the meantime, if you want to find out more about it, get more information about Knights of the Aspirants, there's a link down at the bottom of the screen, ttrpg.link/VOTKA game. So Vow of the Knights-Aspirant game. I'll drop it in the description also too. Sorry, it's in the description. I'll drop it in the chat. If you want to go sign up to get more information about the game as it unfolds. But we'll be back in just a few minutes to keep on playing. Hey, beautiful people, if you're out there right now waiting for us to come back and wondering what's coming up over the next couple of weeks, Plus One EXP, we have a lot of great actual plays, some additional content for Zine Month and Zine Quest, a few more creator workshops, along with a few content roundups that'll be happening. If you want to know a little bit more about how you can support Plus One EXP, there are a number of different ways. Subscribing is always great. But also, we have pre-sales up for Down We Go, our rules light, narrative forward, OSR, or old school rules system that's up over on our website right now, along with dozens of indie games from a lot of different creators, exactly like Alexi and other folks on the stream. If you are joining us for the first time ever, feel free to go ahead and follow, or go ahead and check out our backlog over on YouTube to find actual plays, short reviews, and how to plays for a number of small, independently produced systems. We'll be back in just a few minutes to keep on playing.
Yeah, sounds good.
And we are live here on Plus One EXP's Roll for Content channel, coming back to play more Vow of the Knight-Aspirants. We have a quest in front of us, and you know, whether we're ready for it or not, it's happening. I know my character is totally ready for this. Couldn't be more ready. Continually going to affirm everybody that he's totally. This is fine. As I hand things back over to Alexi Sargeant to take us back in.
Hey, yeah, so I am Alexi. I'm the game designer behind Cloven Games, and I'm excited to be in the midst of demoing Vow of the Knight-Aspirants here. When we left off, our aspiring knights, our squires seeking to prove themselves, had been told of a scarecrow knight built by the village of Alfgar's Knoll that apparently has gone haywire. Before we follow up on that, I wanted to check. Tristan, you were examining the wound that person took in the shoulder. You kind of had like ushered him to sit on a stump, and you were checking where he was grazed or impaled by a crossbow bolt to see how he's doing. Person, are you cooperating with this?
I'm grumpy about it, but I'm cooperating.
Uh-huh.
Like there's sort of like necessary protest, but I'm not fighting.
Hold still. This is your sword arm, you know. This is not a scratch. The bolt went all the way through.
So are you examining an injury here?
Yes, I'm examining injury. Is there a move for that?
Yes, healing ways from your.
Oh, the healing ways, right?
balance. Yeah. When you tend to the wounded, the GM will let you know if you can easily mend them or if you'll need one or more of the following: more time, more supplies, more hand, or more quiet. This is just a scratch. So yes, with your kind of kit of herbs and bandages, you can patch up person. Obviously he should probably take it easy for a little bit, but that's unlikely to be the case. So we'll patch him up as much as you can, knowing that he's probably gonna aggravate this later if he gets into a fight.
Perfect.
My question, I wonder, do you think you want to offer any encouragement while doing this? Because that can give you, there's some, first of all, that could clear a condition, and you as the chalice get some bonuses when you are able to help people out that way.
Sure. I think what Tristan says is that was brave of you to make that first move. You're a very valiant person. But looks like it's all under control now. So you can stand down. And so I'm trying to get, I think it's the wrathful condition that I'm trying to target. I don't know if I'm actually supposed to target a condition.
You can. It's ultimately, if he clears a condition, it's ultimately his call. But you can certainly certainly clear, like you can have the sense that like person is wrathful, and you're hoping to pacify him. So that is a roll plus cheer when you offer encouragement to someone under a shadow.
Okay, so I get to roll. What happens?
What was your roll there?
Oh no, this wasn't good. I got snake eyes.
Wow, with your cheer bonus, that was snake eyes. Great. Well,
snake eyes +1.
That's not something that it's going to be easy to boost. Okay, so
no. Hard move.
Let's see.
Let me ask a question.
Okay.
And this, I don't know. I'd have to think back. Is it possible that you were using one of your lessons, the 4 steps towards healing is acknowledging one's wounds during this time, allowing you to potentially roll a 3rd dice and see if you get a better result?
Oh, that I'm trying to get him to acknowledge his own wound.
Correct.
I see.
Like that you were trying to live by your lesson and trying to impart it to him.
Now that you mention it, but it's Alexi's call.
I'm cool with that interpretation. If you'd like to roll that advantage dice and see what happens, I'm also cool with leaving the miss and seeing
what happens.
What happens from here. Yes.
It would just be an extra die.
We can always do both.
Well,
it could be another bad dice roll. We don't know.
It's going to be with a 1, so it's not going to. But I can do what I can. Yeah, I'll give it one more shot.
All right, so roll a single additional dice, and we'll add that in, see if that changes anything.
Okay. Oh, it's a 6. So that it's an 8. Then I have.
Okay.
Thank you for that suggestion, Tony.
That does change things. The power of lessons. At some point, one of you is going to actually roll a miss, though. So,
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you say that. Have you seen my playbook?
Well, yes. Assuming the hourglass doesn't rewrite history by saying, "Oh, that was just a terrible vision I had." When on a hit, your words reach them. On a 7 to 9, they pick one from below. So this is the ball is in person's court here. You pick one of these options. We share a moment of comfort. Each of us clear a condition or gain 1 heart. We help each other muster courage. Each of us take advantage on our next move. Or I reject the encouragement, but show my hand in the process. Ask me a question and get an honest answer.
Yeah, I'm definitely taking the encouragement, but maybe not exactly the corners that Tristan is trying to give me. Like, I hear his praise of my valor, and the whole general like this is a good idea thing, and we're patching up my sword arm, and so I think instead of clearing Wrathful, I'm going to clear Downcast.
Makes sense.
And Tristan, you would have the chance to clear a condition, but you don't have any conditions, so you instead could gain a heart.
Sounds like a good outcome. Yeah, I'll gain a heart.
And as the chalice, you keep track of what conditions you have helped people to clear, so you can now mark that you've helped him to clear Downcast, and that gives you a special ability you can use later.
I see. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah. So person, what does it look like as you are, it seems somewhat restored by this assistance from your fellow squire?
I mean, you see him, person brightens, he, starts exercising his arm a little bit just to see it, just to feel it out. Nothing super jerky, but it's like, oh yes, this is here, and there's a little bit of a relief in his eyes, even if the anger is still behind them.
Nice.
There were some pain-killing herbs in the poultice I put on, so you might be a little bit altered for a little while. But feeling good.
So possibly person is slightly overestimating how fully healed he is if the anesthesia is present. Okay. Drayden says, "All right, you better follow me," and kind of sets off deeper into the village. Do the four of you follow?
Yes.
Great. So you hear shouts and the sound of splintering wood as you seem to be approaching what must be the central marketplace of the village. The village green, village commons. It's very small, right? This is a tiny village nestled within the woods, but it's the largest open space within this tiny village. And there's a crowd of 24 people. Some of them kind of taking cover behind hay bales or barrels. Some of them wielding pitchforks or threshing equipment, and seemingly giving chase to something as you kind of blink a couple times and take in what you're actually seeing. It is clear there is a scarecrow knight, a figure made of burlap and sticks of wood, but animated, but mounted on a wooden horse that is galloping, right? And this knight has a long lance that it's sort of waving erratically, and the villagers keep kind of trying to get close and jab it with a pitchfork, or knock it from the horse in some way. Some people are tossing ropes, attempting to lasso it, and it is just charging around, occasionally just completely trampling a barrel, and sending people fleeing and stumbling over themselves. It's a bizarre and chaotic scene that is unfolding.
I need to study this, and I just step into the nearest building and clutch a book to my chest and slam the door behind me. I'm going to take a heart for triggering fearful by running away rather than avoiding confronting the issue.
When you run away from facing a danger or difficulty, you gain one heart. That's the bonus heart trigger that fearful gives you. Isabel, what do you do?
I'm going to draw my sword and step forward and declares Scarecrow. In the name of King Hadathar, I challenge you.
Nice. You're issuing a challenge here, it seems.
Also kind of trying to test issuing a challenge, and also part of me is kind of wondering how cognizant the Scarecrow Knight is. So I'm also testing the waters there.
Yes, that's great. So it sounds like maybe you're searching for truth.
I think I am, yeah.
Searching for truth by issuing a challenge. Yeah, absolutely. We'll say there's there's sudden murmuring from amongst these villagers. People who were a moment ago focused on trying to snare the Scarecrow suddenly turn and stare like, who is this speaking for King Hadathar, or speaking in the name of King Hadathar, that has turned up in their little village here. Go ahead and roll with ingenuity to try and search for the truth here. And I don't think you have a lesson that applies unless there's some connection I'm missing.
Not so far, yeah. And my ingenuity is 0, so
just a flat roll. Let's see what happens.
yes. That's 2d6, right?
2d6.
Cool.
Comes to an 8.
Okay.
That's not bad. On a 7 to 9, ask one question below, and you get to pick from this list of questions. What do you think? What do you think you might want to know here?
Let's see. Where is my best opportunity to make a difference?
Yeah, okay. Let's talk about that. So the knight kind of rounds on you, right? It's like weird wooden horse, sort of canters in your direction, and the knight kind of sways back and forth on the saddle, but then seems to right itself and tries to point its lance your way. But you notice that its kind of burlap sack face has been damaged, and specifically the where a mouth should be, there's just a rip, and you don't know how construct knights work, what is going on here with this Scarecrow thing, but something suggests to you that it would be easier to resolve this if the knight had a mouth and could communicate. So there's a hint of a best opportunity to make a difference. Does that seem fair to you?
Yeah, I think so.
Cool. In the meantime, you have issued a challenge, and the knight, slightly woozily, seems to be attempting to answer it as it spurs its wooden horse to gallop towards you, bearing down on you with its lance. Let me just let's keep the spotlight on Isabel for a moment. Isabel, you've noticed this key detail, and now the Scarecrow Knight is charging you. What do you do?
I'm going to dodge slightly, kind of dropping to my knees, and I'm going to try to strike at the horse's legs as it bears down on me, because I see that maybe the knight has something to say, so I'm not sure I want to immediately kill it, if it can be killed. But also, I'm not going to back down anyway from my challenge.
Yeah. All right. Not backing down from the challenge. Trying to hobble the horse.
Yeah.
wooden horse.
Hobble horse.
The hobby horse. So it does sound like you're probably doing battle with a worthy foe, because
Oh,
it's
yeah.
charging you. You're swiping at its steed. Like this potentially will involve a exchange of blows. Go ahead and roll plus valor for that. What did you roll? I don't see it yet.
6.
Hmm?
Do you have any you have bonus to that though, don't you? Right?
I haven't rolled yet.
Oh, I thought there was a roll there for you.
I don't see it.
You're looking at a previous roll, I
Oh,
guess.
yeah.
Okay, Rosamund, let's see what you get.
That's Tristan's
Yes,
roll.
and my valor is 0. So
All right, a flat roll again.
yeah.
Unless there's a lesson you're paying heed to here.
You got the same thing.
Wow. Okay.
No kidding.
All right. So as an 8, this is a mixed result on doing battle. So on a hit, you trade blows in fierce combat. You get to pick one from this list, and then your foe gets to pick one as well. So you choose. Do you shield another from harm, press the attack and inflict additional harm on my foe, fight cannily and maneuver my foe where I want them, or keep my guard up and deflect or redirect some of their blows?
I'm going to fight cannily.
Beautiful. And that makes perfect sense with what you've described so far. So we'll say, like, what that means mostly is you like hobble the wooden horse, right? And like the Scarecrow Knight is like flung down in the dirt off of the horse as it stumbles, right? Like you've essentially, like, cut off the, like, wooden hooves of this thing. So the Scarecrow hits the ground in a sort of like ungainly flop, right? But then like basically it's not fighting at all. It's not fighting quite like a human knight ever would, because it's got many fewer like bones than a human knight would have. So like it looks to you like it's just sort of like flopping around on the ground until suddenly the like lance comes swinging out and like jabs you in a place where you're not armored, right? Like it's weirdly effective at fighting for something that looks completely like ungainly and hopeless. Go ahead. I'm gonna say it presses the attack and inflicts additional harm on the foe. So go ahead and mark a condition for me. Something that makes sense here.
I think I'm going to be downcast.
Yes, that certainly makes sense. And the other, yes, and so potentially that's kind of the like default, right, of doing battle, but it's chosen to press the attack and inflict additional harm. So I think what that means is it's going to knock your sword from your hands unless you grit your teeth here. So I'm telling you to undergo an ordeal, and you choose grit your teeth and press on, hold your ground at mark a condition, or stumble, hesitate, or flinch given the opposition an opportunity, mark a notch. So
Grit my teeth.
Grit your teeth. Okay, so that's one more condition as you manage to hold on to your sword while locked in this like, bizarre struggle with the Scarecrow Knight.
And I think now I'm wearied.
That makes a great deal of sense to me.
And the goal just press. Okay.
I'm going to check in with other squires, and first of all with Ancre in that little house that you oh no. Okay. figure out the
Sorry.
technical difficulties. No
You're
worries.
fine.
Ancre, we're checking in with you. You ran into a house, slammed the door behind you.
Sorry,
well.
I just want to know if I missed anything. For me, the last thing was that I marked down I was wearied.
That I think is the last thing that's going on. So like
Okay.
you've taken some hits here. You've got a number of conditions, but you are still in the fight. You have, by gritting your teeth, hung on to your sword, even as the Scarecrow Knight is like jabbing you with this lance. Basically, it's like attacking from unexpected angles because its arms and body don't move like a human body.
Yes, but I will absolutely die before I drop the sword of my worthless traitor father.
Who you don't care about at all. You're totally over it.
Let's write that down, please.
I did duck into this house. I don't know if there is anybody in here or not, if they're all out in the square, if people have fled this area.
Yeah, there is someone in there.
Okay.
So like as you like slam the door shut and like put your back to it, a little girl stares up at you, and she says, "Are you a knight?"
Yes.
You have to help. They're going to destroy Sir Twigs, but it isn't his fault at all.
Tell me all about it.
She's like, look, I can't explain everything, but it's not. But the beasts in the forest, it isn't Sir Twigs' fault that it got angry. He was doing his best. He was trying to protect us like he was made to do. The beasts attacking more. It's not because of him. They've got it all wrong.
Okay. I'm gonna just kind of pause to look closely at this little girl and try to figure out like who I'm taking in all that information. Like she obviously knows something here. Is there anything that seemed to be special or unique about her?
Go ahead and roll plus ingenuity to search for truth.
Cool. I'm also pausing to study pausing closely to study something new with this little girl. Her relationship.
How are you full up on heart with that?
I just did 3 because I'd used one already.
Okay.
And so, but I'm gonna roll plus ingenuity. That's a 12.
Pretty good.
10 on the dice plus 2. So when you search for truth about a person, place, or situation, say how you're investigating and roll plus ingenuity. My character knows a lot more about this than I do, so we're going to also bank on some of his knowledge.
Sure.
So I can ask 2 questions. I think having studied a lot of the lore and the tales and the legends of the Bleakwood and the area around, the Perilous, I think what we do, I think what person, concept, or lesson holds true authority here. I want to draw out of her, like, what is this thing that is actually, I immediately pick up, okay, there's Sir Twigs thing, used to be friendly, something else is controlling it. I want to try to draw out of her more about who or what that is.
Okay, so so based on the,
I think it is a conversation with a little girl cross-referencing against knowledge I already have of this place. So it's going to be translated through the little girl from this village's language, and then me going, okay, that sounds like thing my character would know that I don't as a player.
Sure. Do you want to ask your second question too, or shall I try to think something for that and then okay?
I do think what danger or injustice needs to be addressed here is going to be my follow-up question, right? So if she has a recommendation, like I totally trust the wisdom of this small little girl. I don't know why anybody would not. She obviously knows what's up. And so I crouch down and go from being like 6'6" to like eye level with this very small girl, and I am giving her.
You're looming over her, but now
I'm giving her the entirety of my world right now because it also lets me forget about what is happening outside.
That you specifically ran away from.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. So I think the question. I think I'm going to end up answering those questions in the reverse order.
That's fine.
She introduces herself. She says, "My name is Athild. They made Sir Twigs to defend the village, but he was also my friend. Oh, he was funny. He would tell jokes, but nobody else cared about what he had to say. They just wanted something they could throw at the beast out there in the forest. And when he came back, his mouth had gotten messed up. He couldn't talk anymore, but I knew something was wrong." And like as she's like, recounting this, she's occasionally kind of like nervously patting this like rucksack, this knapsack she has, right? And like you see something is like moving inside of there. Like there's a small animal or creature that she's got in there, and she's saying, I don't think it was because of Sir Twigs that the beast started attacking more and more. I'm really worried. And like that's when you see like little tiny cat-like creature like poke its head out of her bag, and she like hurriedly pushes it back down in.
I found the big bad evil creature. It's the little cat. And
so... Well, I'm not. You found something. There's something she's not telling you, and she doesn't want you to see the creature she has in her rucksack.
Okay.
And then the true authority thing. She's like, I think Sir Twigs might be. He can't talk because his mouth is gone, and I think he's acting weird because the creature has this venom. I can't tell you how I know about it, but it can sting things, and then they get a little crazy.
Okay.
And maybe that worked on Sir Twigs, even though he's made of straw and burlap.
Okay. That's actually a really good spotlight time. Let's click over somebody else, and we'll figure out what we come back to more in the conversation a little bit.
Sure. You can also, if you so desire, we can have you like emerge from the hut at like the dramatically appropriate moment, either to immediately declare what you found or to more subtly fill your fellow squires in, right?
Right.
Okay. So outside, Isabel is tangled up with the Scarecrow Knight, which we know at least one little girl in the village refers to as Sir Twigs. Actually, and I can put him in the NPCs tab as well now. Let me check with Tristan. Tristan, you're seeing this. What are you doing?
So I think so his burlap head doesn't have a mouth, right?
It looks like it's been damaged, so a place where there would be maybe like a stitched on mouth is no longer there.
Stitched on mouth is so his head has been damaged somehow. So I think what Tristan is trying to do, he thinks his perception might be a little bit off the way he's flailing, and he is gonna. There's like a horse blanket folded over a banister there. I think he's going to grab it and throw it over Isabel to try to hide her from the flailing beast. The flailing Sir Twigs.
That's amazing. Let me just take a look. Is it possible this is your playbook move? Go to ground?
Yeah, I think it is. Go to ground, yeah. Because I'm trying to conceal somebody else from
Okay, yeah. When you seek to conceal yourself or others, roll plus perseverance. On a hit, you find the perfect place to remain unseen, or in this case, make the perfect place to remain unseen. But
Create
I
it.
will give that to you.
All right. Let's see. All right.
I really want this to pop off so bad.
It's a 9.
Okay. So the question is anyone helping out with this, or are we going to go with 7 to 9 results here?
No, if we had a hinder, I would do that.
because you so strongly disapprove of this plan.
Yeah,
And I think Isabel would too. I would be inclined to protect her.
I know
from this
Isabel is
curse.
not going to be happy with this plan.
I slam the door open at that exact moment and say, I have important information.
So with the idea that you possibly
Yeah, I'm
distract
spinning a heart, which
Sibling.
prevents me from doing the super cool move I was about to do. But I 100% love the idea of we have thrown something over Isabel, and now Mr. Twigs has no idea where she is. Is peak move, and I am here for it.
This is great because it feels exactly like those scenarios where like an AI driven car confuses a full moon for a stop sign or something, right?
Yeah.
Because absolutely, like a horse blanket goes over Isabel, and Sir Twigs, who was battling her a moment ago, is just like standing there, kind of like rotating his scarecrow head with a slightly more degrees of rotation than a human head would have, but seems like completely nonplussed by what's going on. Like it's as if Isabel has just vanished off the face of the earth from Sir Twigs's perspective.
And Tristan says under his breath to Isabel, "Stay hidden."
So mechanically, what this means is anyone you're hiding will remain concealed until they choose to reveal themselves, I guess. Take advantage if you make use of the element of surprise as you do so. So this becomes a possible advantage that Isabel can leverage when she emerges from hiding. And
just so you know, I've gone absolutely stock still in a way that suggests I'm extremely uncomfortable, like freaked out by the blanket in a way that I was not by the scarecrow.
Oh, fascinating. Yeah, so Ancre, you like made a dramatic emergence here.
Yes. And I do think like after I do that, like I utterly freeze for longer than it would be appropriate for a confident knight too, which is not a long time. Make eye contact ish with Mr. Twigs, and then like say so they made him and he is poisoned right now, and that's why he's misbehaving. And there is a creature in the woods that is the actual problem. I think we just need to get Mr. Twigs out of town right now.
So like you're saying this like aloud, because like there's villages
To
all
everyone.
around.
Oh yeah, I am
no subtlety. Okay.
Yeah, there's no subtlety or subterfuge to this at all. It is literally just me imparting the knowledge that I just learned to everybody. I don't know what Mr. Twigs is doing right now in the middle of this, or if he's just confused because all of a sudden his opponent disappeared. But
for the moment, he's pretty confused.
Okay.
A burly villager, right, like blacksmith looking type, says like, laddie, you've been talking to Athild, huh? She's been filling your head with her bizarre theories. Listen, in Alfgar's Knoll, we know how to deal with our problems. This scarecrow was never a good idea.
Okay, so it was never a good idea, meaning that what Athild told me was true. You made the scarecrow, and now you're telling me it wasn't a good idea, which is fine.
All right, we made it, and now we've got to undo that mistake.
I'm with this guy.
And he's like like readying his hammer and like stepping up towards Sir Twigs, like he's just going to try smashing it till it stops moving.
I'm gonna manage to finally shake off my horse blanket trauma and claw my way free and yell, "The Scarecrow was trying to speak."
Fascinating. What are you hoping to do with thereby?
I think I'm trying to confront / challenge this villager into admitting something more of what's going on, because because of what I noticed earlier about the Scarecrow's mouth. I feel that there is something more going on than simply a out of control construct.
Then try to forge a path. When you forge a path forward, despite difficulty or disorientation, roll plus perseverance. And so the question is, can you forge a path to some more like candid conversation here?
Okay, and I've got +2 perseverance. So
now you are wearied, if I recall correctly.
Oh, right. Wearied. -2 perseverance. So I'm at 0 again.
Here's my question. Is it possible one of your lessons is helping here? For example, leaders carry others and keep their pain to themselves.
That is actually an extremely good point.
And what great system design.
It seemed like there was some trauma or phobia that had Isabel in its clutches, and you are just like ignoring that, right? You're just like pushing that to the side to try to do what needs to be done.
Yeah, so sorry. Does that mean I get to use my perseverance again?
And what it means is you get advantage. So it's still a flat roll, but you roll 3d6 and you take the 2 that are best.
Let's do this. Okay, that's a 10.
Makes for a 10.
Pop.
Okay. On a 10 plus, fortune smiles on you. Ask the GM what unexpected opportunity you discover. Ooh, that's great. Yeah, so I think the blacksmith pauses, right? Like lowers the hammer, kind of seems to like take in for the first time the damage to Sir Twigs's face, right? Like what you were trying to point out. He also like sees your sword, and like drops down to one knee in a gesture of obeisance. So wow. Unexpected opportunity. You found a loyalist. Have fun with that. Let's person. The rest of the crowd is restive too, right? Like there are people like adjusting their grips on their torches and pitchforks. Like there's these kind of central figures that seem to be focused on each other, but there's also a skittish group of villagers all around, and I think your overall instincts about like when bad things are about to happen are starting to ping. Some of those are just like battle instincts, some of those are hourglass instincts, some of those are like a vision of what happens if the whole crowd rushes in, and whether Isabel and her new blacksmith liege servant get caught in the crossfire, right? So you're getting like flashes of disturbing visions here. What do you do?
Oh, I'm not sold on this thing, man. I am. The fact that it's Isabel and not just Ancre who is pushing for this is the only reason that I haven't like just made ribbons out of this thing already. She's the one with just enough credibility to make me hesitate, but I'm still itchy. Like what the blacksmith was saying was making a lot of sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't. I don't see a reason that we should try to preserve this thing, sort of regardless. It doesn't have a value on its own, and I think mostly this is just all really making me itch. I think I kind of just need to vent on something, and if it's not going to be the scarecrow, it's something else nearby. Like, what did we you know, I'm trying to figure out who it would be fruitful to threaten.
That's very
So-
relatable.
Yeah, right. So what did we pull the horse blanket off? It was slung over something, right? But not a horse.
It was a banister, like there was that place where you tie up the horses,
Hitching post.
a
Yeah.
hitching post. Thank you.
Yeah, I think maybe I take like a pretty good like overhead swing at that as like a demonstration of force and a just, you know, this could be the scarecrow, but it isn't this instant. You're making a face like I'm not making sense.
No. I'm listening.
And I think maybe I have put enough together to have parsed what was it the blacksmith that was talking about Ethid?
Yes. The blacksmith was saying Ethild is filling Ancre's head with these crazy theories.
Yeah, I think if we're going to entertain these crazy theories, we need to do them in public right now. And so I think let's try to compel Ancre.
All right. So are you rolling claws out here?
No, I want to make him live up to a lesson. I don't quite know how to do that.
I was about to do the same thing to you. Great, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. When you
Come at
invoke,
me.
so are you invoking one of his lessons, or are you invoking?
Yes.
Are you trying to impart a lesson? Okay, yeah.
Everything secret is worth uncovering.
Nice. So if you're invoking a lesson someone holds, offer them one heart if they follow a course of action you're suggesting.
Okay. Do I have to offer him one of mine? Is that how that works?
Let's see.
That's offer
Is it
was
an
not.
exchange, or do I just gain a heart if I do what he wants? Is the question, right?
You can gain a heart if you listen to his invocation of your lesson.
Cool.
Though it sounds like you're along the way smashing up this hitching post.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so that would be venting your frustration on something inanimate.
Yep.
Just say. Tell me what.
So
tell
I
me
think
what
I
you
think
said,
I
Ancre.
turn it on credit, and I'm just like, whatever is going on here, if the evil isn't the writhing pile of straw swinging a weapon at our friend, we ought to hear about it soon. Bring your source here so we can have a chat.
All right, Ancre, do you go for it?
Let's play out what I'm going to do, and then we'll decide whether that was doing it or not. I think my response is to just look and, like, with more assertiveness than you have ever seen Ancre have at any moment in time, basically say, like, I know patience is uncomfortable for you, but it's the only path towards knowledge. And so basically, like, I'm invoking knowledge, even misfortune, as a priceless gift back to you, but basically just telling you, I need you to chill out and not be an asshole right now, essentially, as part of my response. Here's what I actually do, though. I like stride over directly to wherever Mr. Twigs is at right now, confused and befuddled.
It's Sir Twigs.
Sir
Yeah,
Twigs. Sorry.
He's a knight.
Sorry.
I was
He didn't go
enjoying
to
that. I
8
didn't want to
years of
correct it.
8 years of night school to be called Mr. Twigs.
It's unclear if anyone like dubbed him a knight, but he was clearly
Sure.
built to be a knight.
And I'm going to spend 3 hearts.
Oh yes.
And I'm going to communicate with something you normally couldn't reach, like a wild beast, a tree, or the wind. I think we watch the ink spill out across my hands and down my giant spear as I essentially draw a very crude mouth on Mr. Twigs and ask him to tell us what his story is. And so I don't know if that satisfies what person was asking. I'll let Brian decide if that satisfies what person was asking. Because you asked me to bring them here, and I'm just granting him the ability to
I was definitely thinking of a Thild, but this counts. This counts.
Okay.
And I think the question for you is, does seeing this action happen allow you to settle in because something is moving forward and become patient with the process moving forward? Which you don't have to decide right now, but if so, I think it satisfies what I was pressing you on.
I think I'll do you one better. I think I sheath my sword and I look in the direction of the crowd and mumble an apology.
Oh wow.
I think I'm clearing Wrathful.
Oh, yep. Yeah, when you apologize for harm you've caused in anger, you can clear Wrathful. Sure. Okay. So Ancre, you spent the heart. You've drawn a mouth on this scarecrow and have now created a way to communicate with him. And Sir Twigs speaks in this like dry, scratchy voice, like like wood and straw kind of rubbing together to create sound, right? And he says, I tried to do what I was supposed to do, but I was stung. I couldn't do it. I was a failure. And I wasn't ready to be a failure. And they thought I was no good. They thought I was just trash, but I wasn't trash. I could do better. I could show them. But how? And he kind of flops his arms out in a gesture of helplessness. How am I supposed to help if you try to take me apart?
I just want to pause and see if any other players' characters have a response they want to offer.
I think Tristan pulls something from his pocket and steps forward to Sir Twigs. And it's Ladrone's cat was always coughing up hairballs.
Uh-huh.
So it's a trichobezoar, which is a cure for poison that he's got in his pocket. Hairballs cure poison, supposedly.
Okay.
And he approaches Sir Twigs with his hands down, very non-threatening, and says, "This will cure you." And he offers him the actually what he does is he takes the trichobezoar and he stuffs it into the little front pocket of his shirt. I know he's not a real scarecrow, or maybe he stuffs it in the collar of his armor if he has armor. And if I don't know how the construct is going to respond to this, whether he'll let this happen or not let this happen, and I don't know what kind of move this is, but That's what I'm thinking of doing.
It's a good move either way.
Ah. Let's see. Yeah, I love pulling out this this kind of magical cure here. Probably draws a lot of eyes to you from the villagers who are like,
Would you say
who
they were
is this?
would you say they were caught by surprise?
Yes, I would say they're caught by surprise.
Would you say that them being caught by surprise might allow somebody to cleanse a place from a curse, poison, or malign influence?
I see where you're going.
Where you're going there?
Yes, I'd say people are caught by surprise because they don't necessarily, because like once their attention, because like you tend to like sink into the background, right? But like once people's attention is on you, they're very confused that you have these these tattoos they would associate with hedge magic, but you are apparently part of this party of aspiring knights here. So there's kind of some general like some murmurs spreading around the crowd of Alfgar's Knoll villagers, but with that additional heart, you do have the option to cleanse a place from curse, poison, or malign influence.
Sure, it makes sense to use it.
Yeah, so I think Sir Twigs, reaches up hand that's made of twigs and rope, right? And like holds up the bizoir to examine it, with his button eyes, right? And then I think because Ancre drew this mouth on him, he can swallow it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and and then he eats it. He goes totally stiff, standing up straight for a moment. Drops into a classic scarecrow pose, and then kind of slowly loosens himself from that and says, "I feel much better. Thank you."
Welcome back, friend.
Let's take a second break there. We've made some important progress.
Great
here.
Commercial break moment.
Exactly. But when we come back, we will see how events unfold for our squires and this village they are assisting. Tony, do you wanna lead us out?
Yeah, awesome. We are going to be back in just a few minutes. In the meantime, if you go to ttrpg.link/VOTKA game, so like Vow of the Knight-Aspirant, but just the first letters, game, you can check out how you can get more information about this game as it comes out and releases. We will be back in just a few moments. If you're watching this later, the link to that is also down in the description. Bow-bow. And we are back here on +1 EXP playing Vow of the Knight-Aspirants. We have been exploring a city sworn to a deposed duke with his estranged daughter while fighting a scarecrow. I mostly hid in a room, but then found some secrets. There was a horse blanket that got thrown over somebody confusing an animated scarecrow, and we then freed it of poison from a mouth I drew on it. You know, normal RPG stuff. Let's find out what happens next. Alexi, do you want to take us back in?
Absolutely. So we rejoin our squires who have, for the moment at least, helped out the village of Elfgar's Knoll and its scarecrow knight protector who had been going haywire until the squires restored Sir Twigs's ability to communicate and gave him a bezoar that served as an antidote to the venom of some terrible beast in the forest that had been causing him to act erratically. Another thing that happened during all that is Isabel accidentally discovered a loyalist, someone who knelt down when he saw the sword she wields, which bears the insignia of her father, the treacherous usurper, and so I think that the blacksmith, right? He says, "My lady, I am Owen the Smith. I owe undying loyalty to your family. Please, what would you have us do? Command us. This village is yours."
Yes, do command us, Isabel.
What do you do?
Sorry, I was just checking names because it's that kind of night, I guess. I look down at him and I say, I would have you vow allegiance to King Hadathar as I did, because he spared my life when I was a helpless child and nothing but the spawn of an usurper. And if you will follow me in this, then I will see your village protected.
Oh, interesting. So this sounds sort of like beseeching a boon.
Yeah.
Since you're saying what you offer in return. And I guess he's necessarily willing to listen since he's just said he has undying loyalty to your family, but so probably be slightly difficult for him to take. Yeah, I'll let you roll for it. So you are currently wrathful.
Yes, which.
So it's a -1. So yeah, go ahead and roll.
Wait. Can I? Am I right that Isabel is not keeping her pain to herself?
You're wondering if she's defying a lesson?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm wondering.
Oh, so you're wondering if this is -1 and disadvantage?
Correct. Yes, that's what I'm asking.
I don't think so, because I'm saying this extremely stoically.
True, but it sounds like you're trying to process pain that you have with your father through this action. I hate what Brian is doing as a player, but it is narratively spot on. And if I do it on the positive side, we need an inverse foil to do it on the negative side.
It's up to Rosamund. It's pretty funny to me, but I'm going to defer to the player here. We haven't seen someone defy a lesson yet.
Yeah. Man, I wanted to defy a lesson for something cooler. Well, I guess this is cool. Okay, sure.
I mean, you're trying to get this this village that are like dead enders for your dad to swear loyalty to King Hadithar.
Yeah. Okay. So this is roll with disadvantage.
Yes,
and
roll
-1.
Roll 3 dice, take the worst 2, and take the -1. But you get to mark a notch no matter what.
Okay, that was a total of 5 after everything.
Wait, are you sure? Because I see.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at my previous roll again. Okay, no, that's a total of 7.
7.
Yeah. Okay.
So
If you
you
were rolling actual dice and rolled literally nothing but 4s, I would think they were loaded.
My last roll was not only 4s.
So let me take a look at what this means. Okay. When you defy a lesson, roll with disadvantage, no matter what, mark a notch. If you roll a hit, rewrite the lesson to reflect what you've learned or how you've grown. So keep that in mind. You're going to get a chance to rewrite a lesson momentarily. But also that means you got a 7 to 9 beseech a boon. A 7 to 9 that can demand something costlier than what you offered, promise it, and the boon is yours. Let's just check. The boon was that they would swear their loyalty to King Hadithar.
Yes.
And you were offering them that you would see their village protected.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. He kind of seems in shock for a moment. He's like, Lady Isabel, truly you would have us give our oaths to the man who slew the Duke, your father?
Yes. I gave my oath to the man who slew my father. What I'm asking of you is much less.
If we are to do this, we would need you to be here, to be our leader, to be our guide. If we are following you into the realm of Hadithar, he can't bring himself to say King Hadithar. If we're following you into the realm of Hadithar, then you must at least be our liege lord. Rebuild the ruined Maddock Manse here in Elfgar's Knoll. Will you promise that?
When I have finished this quest, I must return to the king to give my report, but I swear to you on my father's bones that after that I will come here to rebuild.
We can begin. We can start building so the house is ready for you when you return.
That sounds wonderful.
And he beams. Person, you had kind of witnessed the other squires like get through to this scarecrow that you so distrusted, and now it is kind of speaking, in less disjointed sentences. It like just it's no longer lashing out or flailing, right? It's in fact what it's doing is like kind of checking on its horse that got injured by Rosamund, and it, kind of like makes like kind of like soothing noises towards this like skittish wooden animal, right? That Isabel had hobbled, and it says, someone could lend me a a hammer and nails, please. And like a villager very hesitantly offers them, and it starts fixing the legs of the wooden horse by just nailing the bits that got cut off back onto it. I'm wondering, are you still on high alert about Sir Twigs? Are you feeling any sort of a change of heart? What's going on for Person?
I think that he still finds the whole Sir Twigs thing distasteful. This should be below us. This it's not a person even when it's being polite. But also it does feel it clearly feels unchivalrous to target my rage at it while it's being polite. So I think I'm at this point a little inclined to go pursue the other end of the mystery. I feel like what is the little girl's name? Athild,
yeah. She's probably poked her head out of the same little house that Ancre had emerged from.
Right. I feel like she has won a little bit of credibility, but maybe a little bit too much. And so I want to chat with her. There's something isn't quite right.
All right.
She knows more than she should, and I suspect she still knows more than I do about what's going on here.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So yeah. So you're how do you approach her? Right. She's just at the moment seems just very pleased to see Sir Twigs acting more normally, and is kind of taking in the whole scene.
I think I approach her steadily, but not angrily. I am really trying to lean into, I'm going to be a knight someday. How would a knight do this? Is the aura I'm trying to project, right? So shoulders back, chest up, calm, serious, trying not to freak out. It's been a weird day. Right, still antsy, but mostly keeping it together for the moment.
Yeah. So she looks up. She says, "Oh, thank you. You and your friends, you helped Sir Twigs. You saved the day."
I nod, and I sort of tilt my head a little bit. You seem to know an awful lot about what's going on around here.
I'm good at watching things. Lots of the time people don't notice me, so I see a lot.
It's an odd thing to see things that others don't, isn't it?
She nods eagerly at that, without seeming to understand what you might be alluding to.
Have you spoke to one of my associates before? Did you tell him everything you know about what's going on with Sir Twigs and the thing out there?
Huh? I mean, I told him the important things.
Did you leave anything out on purpose?
I feel like you're searching for the truth here. If you're trying to push past a NPC's resistance to answering you.
I think that's about right. What is that a roll of? Is that ingenuity?
That's ingenuity.
Cool. I've got one of those. Really? Wait, I've got one of those. That's a hit.
Yep. Yeah. 6 on the dice plus 1. You get to ask one question.
Cool. She's still got the bag, right?
Oh, yes. Maybe you even noticed it, like, move a tiny bit.
All right. Well, the question that I want to spend is, what here is not what it seems to be. And definitely, yeah.
Yeah, great.
As a player, I have my eye on that map.
I mean, I think we got to do it. We got to do this the dramatic way where, like, as you say, did you leave anything out on purpose? Like, the bag flies open and this little, like, cat creature goes like running up her shoulders and, like, hisses at you. And she's like, Spotsy, no, and, like, grabs it and tries to shove it back in. And before she manages to shove it all the way back into the bag, you notice it has this, like, lashing scorpion tail. It's clearly not a natural creature. Some kind of, hybrid, born from, spawned from the magic of the Bleakwood.
Oh boy.
So that's what's you asked what's not what it appears to be.
Yeah.
The little girl has a baby monster in her bag.
Yeah. Can I keep pushing at this?
Sure. Yeah.
So I think again, leaning into the knightly persona, trying not to make this a threat, which is
even though that's
not
one
my
of your
strongest.
moves on your playbook, is for threatening.
Yeah, but not for threatening little girls.
You're right. That doesn't quite sound knightly, does it?
No, it doesn't. I think I take a breath and I say, the thing that afflicted your straw man had that same tail, didn't it?
Yeah. I don't. Spotsy's happy here. You're gonna try to make me take him away from the village, but he's happy here.
You care about this place and its people and its things, as far as I can tell. You may not hope to be a knight someday, but you still have to do what's right.
Are you imparting a lesson?
I'm trying to demand action from the complacent.
I think you might.
Am I imparting a lesson to do that?
Yeah, right? Like, it sounds like you are.
What do I have to do to impart a lesson on an
Okay. Yeah. When you attempt to impart a lesson to a PC or NPC, choose how much heart you want to put into it. If they resist the lesson, they roll with -X, where X was the heart you spent.
Am I allowed to spend 0?
Yeah. That just means that if she resists, there's no modifier on it.
Yep, I'm going for that.
So this is I'm going to flag this, right? This is an unusual moment where a PBTA game demands that the GM roll dice, because if an NPC resists a lesson, then the GM rolls the dice for them, and the resist a lesson move triggers, and we get to see what happens. Let me read it to myself first to make sure I want to do this. Tell me exactly what the phrasing of the lesson would be. Like, what is it you would want her to take in if you successfully imparted this?
Following the highest good demands sacrifice.
Yeah.
I mean, she's a little kid. She's not supposed to like that lesson.
No, she's going to resist it, absolutely.
Yeah, of course.
So she like with like tears starting to well up in her eyes, she's just like shaking her head, no, no, no. And I will roll to see if she, if she resists successfully. So this is a flat roll because she has no stats, and all the roll is actually flat by default unless the person imparting a lesson has spent hard, right?
Right.
Oh, but no, the first actual miss of the session. On a miss, their words overcome your resistance, mark a condition, and record their lesson. So congratulations,
Scarred a child.
person. you have marked a condition on this little girl. I'm gonna have her mark the condition grieving, as she kind of like rubs her hand across her face and says, I guess you're all making sacrifices to help us, and you don't even know us. Goodbye, Spotsy. I'll miss you. And she just hands you the bag with the now
Still very angry cat
and
in it.
struck. Yeah, well, yeah, it was hissing at you a moment ago. Now it's in a bag that you're holding and like thrashing around. But like,
Yeah.
she hands it over and then like runs off with like like a stifled sob.
Oh, okay, man. I was gonna ask if I could sneak in my heart move.
Ooh, which sorry, that is before she runs away. Yeah, go for it, please.
I think as she's turning, I think I put my hand on her shoulder to interrupt her, and I crouch as necessary, like clutching this bag shut and worrying about the scratches later, to make eye contact with this little girl.
And
I
read what that does.
Yeah. Spend 3 heart to lock eyes with someone and receive a dramatic prophecy of their future.
Which
I don't know if it's going to be good news or bad news, but I feel like she deserves some news.
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought it would be really funny if you just rewrote time was like, nope, that was just a horrible future where I made a child cry.
No, he wants to.
He's definitely crying.
I love this so much. No, this is great.
So yeah, I think you get like a little montage of Athild's future and her growing up in this village, and she keeps taking in strays, right? So like you see her like nursing an injured fox back to health, right? You see her one day when broken and weary man arrives in town, kind of helping to integrate him into the village. And then you see her as an older woman, with like a gaggle of former orphans at her heels, that she's like turned into a family here in Elfgar's Knoll. So like it's not an easy life, right? There are challenges, there are disappointments and losses along the way, but your strong impression is that her kind of the heart for lost little things is just going to be what leads her all through her life.
So I think while I've got eye contact, I think I say, your love is deep and it is true, and it will find a good home.
Do you want to roll that as an offer of encouragement, or just leave that as like something for her to ponder?
I think I just want the moment. I don't think I want to blow this roll.
Totally fair. After all, -1 cheer. Tristan, the hunter that tangled with person earlier, right? Drainan, he approaches you, right? It seems your companions are occupied, and he says, "Good work. You fixed him. I didn't think that would happen."
Well, Sir Twigs looks like he's back to normal. Although our original problem, or your original problem, hasn't been solved, has it?
I was going to ask about that. How do you and your friends feel about going on a hunt?
Well, we wouldn't be knights if we didn't go on a hunt for a beast terrorizing a village, right? Or at least I'm sure that's what my friends will say.
An incredibly uncomfortable laugh erupts next to you from Ancre.
Oh, I didn't see you there. What was that ink thing with the spear? That was really weird. But I guess it worked.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I do sometimes, yeah.
You are the strangest knights I've ever heard of, but at least you bothered to come to Elfgar's Knoll.
So, Drainan, do you know where the beast's lair is?
I've been trying to track it with little success, but Sir Twigs, he met it, and thanks to you, he can tell us. I think we may finally have the lead we need.
And Tristan looks over at Sir Twigs, who's hammering away at his horse's hooves, putting them back together. And he strolls on over to him and said, "Sir Twigs, well met."
And who might you be?
I'm the one that cured your poison. My name is Tristan. I'm a squire of Luthenberg Castle.
I am honored to make your acquaintance, Squire Tristan. Are you here to assist me in my noble quest?
Indeed. We are here to help protect this village from the beast that so horribly harmed you. I'd like to know whether you know anything about its whereabouts. Where were you attacked, Sir Twigs?
The beast makes its lair by the foot of a great and ancient tower. We shall track it down and end its reign of terror. If you and your friends ride at my side, I'm sure the creature will be no match for us.
Is your horse quite well enough for the journey? Seems a bit wobbled still.
Yeah, he kind of pats the creature on the side, and he says, She'll be right as rain in a jiffy, won't you, Timber? And there's sort of neigh-like sound, but it's like the neigh that is produced from wood straining against wood somehow. It's hard to tell if that's an affirmative from Timber, but Sir Twig seems reassured by it.
Well, we'll need your knowledge to lead us to this tower. And Tristan is thinking to himself, "Oh, this could be the Tower Perilous. This could be the true quest that we are on."
Yeah, and Sir Twigs puts a wooden hand on your shoulder. It's friendly but uncomfortable because it's made of wood, right? As he says,
"Blisters, I know, splinters."
Hear you, me, young squire. All you must do is find your spine, and nothing can overcome you. Mine is made of swishy alderwood.
Is Sir Twigs trying to impart a lesson?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. So, do you accept the lesson? Find your spine, and nothing can overcome you.
Find your spine and nothing can overcome you. Let's see what, and let me just look at the move really quickly. Impart a lesson.
So what you're looking at, basically, the options are accept a lesson or resist a lesson. And accept a lesson is when you accept a lesson being imparted to you, mark a notch and record the lesson. Resist requires a roll, but if you accept it, it just becomes part of your character sheet, right?
So if I accept the lesson, then I mark a notch, right?
Correct.
And if I don't accept it, I roll.
You roll to see if you successfully don't accept it.
I see. And if I successfully, I'm going to get a notch anyways?
Not
No.
necessarily. Yeah, you get a notch for accepting. Yeah, resisting is the reward for resisting is just not having a lesson if you weren't interested in the lesson. On a 10+, you get to impart a lesson back to them. Yeah.
Right. I'm going to accept the lesson and take the notch. And say the lesson one more time for me.
I think it was find your spine and nothing can overcome you.
Find your spine. All right.
Oh, I think possibly we were both trying to edit the lessons at once, but yeah, just
I'll figure it out.
Record that there. Yeah. Great. Right. So I think maybe our like closing shot then is is like 4 squires, a hunter, and a scarecrow knight mounted on a wooden horse, getting ready to charge, or to sally forth out of Elfgar's Knoll in quest of this beast. Person, do you let anyone else know about the little creature you've got in a knapsack, or are you kind of saving that as an ace in the hole?
I honestly wanted to kick that answer into my epilogue roll.
Perfect. Let's maybe do that then. Are we cool to go to end of session moves and then recount our epilogues?
I think so.
So how this works is at the end of each session, you take a look, see whether you mark a notch for. There's a playbook trigger that could maybe have you mark a notch, and there's a general end of session question you answer where you can either end up marking a notch or reworking a lesson. So potentially 2 additional notches here if things go your way. Let's start with Isabel. Isabel, at the end of each session, mark a notch if others turn to you for leadership. Would you say that happened?
I mean, yeah. Pretty explicitly.
The blacksmith tried to, sign over his whole village to you. So go ahead and mark 1 notch for that. And then the other one is, at the end of each session, choose. I embody my lessons and ideals more and more, mark a notch, or I am struggling with what it means to be a knight, rework a lesson. Oh wow, you actually got to rework 1 lesson already because you succeeded while defying your leaders carry others who keep their pain to themselves lesson.
I guess I did, yeah.
Do you have a thought about how you might tweak that and about your end of session choice?
Yeah, I think I'm going to I think I'm gonna rework that lesson into, I don't know, leaders carry others even if they must bare their souls to do so.
Ooh, I like it a lot. With that in mind, are you embodying your lessons and ideals more and more, or struggling with what it means to be a knight?
I mean, honestly, I think I'm kind of doing both at the same time.
So pick the one where you want the mechanic. Do you want the bonus notch, or do you want to rework an additional lesson?
I think I'm going to take the bonus notch.
Take the bonus notch. Nice. Which will bring you up to 4 when we come back around to have you roll roll plus notches for your epilogue. So you're with +4, you're in great shape. Nothing could go wrong, I'm sure. Person, did you at the end of each session mark a notch if you boldly shared a difficult truth? Do you feel?
I did it with a little girl, but also yes.
It's still sometimes the most difficult truths of all are those we have to share with little girls, including "No, it is bedtime now," for example. But yes, back to the game. Would you choose? I embody my lessons and ideals more and more, mark a notch, or I'm struggling with what it means to be a knight, rework a lesson?
I think I'm embodying my lessons more.
Cool.
I hesitated a little bit when all of my friends were pleading with me, but I don't feel like that has caused me to question my lessons at all. So
sounds good. All right, take the notches. Tristan, did you help someone who seemed like an enemy?
Yeah, I think Sir Twigs and the Bezoar would be an example of that.
Yeah, sounds good to me. And do you feel you're embodying your lessons and ideals more and more, or struggling with what it means to be a knight?
I think I'm still embodying my lessons. So is that a notch? Okay.
Yes. So I think that brings you to 3 total if I'm tracking it correctly. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Because you got one from accepting a lesson, and then two from end of session.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Ancre, did you resolve a tense situation peacefully?
I did.
Mm-hmm.
Nice work. Take a.
I already added that one in.
And then what do you choose from embodying your lessons and ideals more and more, or struggling with what it means to be a knight?
While I may be struggling with part of what it means to be a knight, from my standpoint, the lessons that I understand, I'm doing great. I'm doing great with my lessons.
Right.
I'm uncovering secrets.
You're doing that.
I'm trying not to judge people, trying to get other people not to judge people.
Did you forge a meaningful bond with an NPC along the way?
Yeah. So,
I see you've jotted down.
I jotted down names because I didn't. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, and it took me. There was a little bit of like, here's how this works. Is it a narrative conceit, or is it, hey, you roll to see if you have formed a bond, or how does it work?
No, it's when it seems true in the fiction that you formed a bond, you can add people to your extra here. So were we playing a longer series, you would now have the ability to call for help, to call on the example and advice of these NPCs and have that assist you.
Yeah.
And then ultimately then they kind of sort of from afar impart lessons to you, even as you think back over what they mean to you. So
yeah, I do think probably not with the hunter, but with Etheld and with Sir Twigs. I put Mr. in here again. I think I have formed a bond, and I actually think I have not really had a knight that I
look up to
who are taking care of me, and I think Mr. Twigs is 100%. Surrogate knight for me right now.
Attached yourself to the scarecrow, as the squire to him specifically. Amazing. That's very good. So why don't we go back across and roll epilogues? Tony, would you roll plus your notches to see how your epilogue unfolds? Basically, everyone gets an epilogue, and this roll determines a little bit of the tone, whether you're narrating a scene where a lesson you've learned helps you to exemplify knighthood and inspire others, or narrating a scene where a lesson you've learned helps you to narrowly avert a dangerous threat, or narrating a scene where a lesson you learned leads you astray and into jeopardy. So if you would, Tony, roll plus your notches.
4 and a 5 for 9 plus 3 notches for my epilogue.
Beautiful.
So that's going to be a 12. So narrate a scene where a lesson you've learned helps you exemplify knighthood and inspire others.
Right. And so these epilogues can be kind of montage-like. It can be with later in your quest. It can be in the Tower Perilous. It can be later in your life, but just a glimpse of the some aspect of the future for your character.
Yeah. I think we see I think we see an older uh Ancre with Mr. Twigs on his deathbed.
Oh.
Mr. Twigs is on his deathbed, not Ancre. And I think there's a brief exchange, about some of the journeys that they went on, things that have happened. We hear them kind of going back and forth a little bit for a second, and then you hear you see Mr. Twigs lean in, or Sir Twigs lean in and say, "I just have one more secret about the knighthood for you." And as I lean in, he to like hear him whisper it to me. That's when he expires, and I never know what his final secret was.
Very bittersweet epilogue there. Then let's next see Tristan. Jose, would you roll plus your notches to give us a sense of what Tristan's a sense for the tone of Tristan's epilogue?
And I just heard, I know you said notches, but I heard you say nachos.
Yeah, it does. It sometimes sounds like nachos. That'd be more of a stat for Secret Science Sewer siblings.
Yeah, roll plus nachos.
Roll plus nachos. So yes, Jose, roll plus notches for Tristan.
As a 10.
Fantastic. Okay. So a lesson you've learned helps you inspire others.
So I think what we see, I'm thinking about Sir Twig's lesson to me about finding my spine.
Yeah, you accepted that lesson right at the end. So that
I accepted that lesson right at the end. So I think we see a scene in the Tower Perilous. Is that what it's called?
Okay, in the Tower Perilous.
And it's there's this huge troll kind of creature that is about to bring his fist down on Ancre, who could not find a place to hide or get out of it, and Tristan jumps forward out of the shadows and puts his staff up to block it, and the staff shatters with the blow, and the blow lands on Tristan's chest, and he collapses onto the ground. But just in time for the person and Isabel to enter the fray and distract the troll, thus saving Ancre's life.
I love it.
Yeah, okay.
That's fantastic. That's great. I love that it's a lesson from Sir Twigs that you ultimately embody in the epilogue. Let's see. For person, Brian, will you roll with the notches to see what we're going to get here?
Let's do it. That is rolling +3, which gets me an 11. All right.
The most inspiring epilogues here. It's great.
Yeah. And I think with a full hit, I want to show a little bit of growing nuance in the lesson.
Nice.
So I think you see not super long after we leave this town, you see person by himself with that stupid bag. And you see him like dump the bag out, and you get like a super like face on shot with him
where you just see him bring his sword down. And we see, and it flashes to the future a couple of years. And we see like some sort of grizzled, like bear wolf thing bearing down on the town. And you see, you know, Mr. Twigs standing in defense. And you see an older Athild standing alongside a much larger cat thing with no tail.
That's great. That's great. Like finding some wiggle room within, striking without hesitation or compunction.
Paying attention to what's actually wicked.
Finally, Isabel, Rosamund, would you roll with the notches to find out what we'll see in our epilogue glimpse of Isabel?
Sure. Is that 2 dice again?
Yes, 2d6, and you're adding +4 to it. So really, there's almost no way this could go badly.
Don't jinx it. Okay, that's 9. So
wow, good thing you did have the +4. Okay. So what that turns out to be is, on a 7 to 9, narrate a scene where a lesson you've learned helps you narrowly avert a dangerous threat.
So obviously after the quest is over, I'm going to come back to the village and fulfill my promise to help rebuild it and provide them with leadership.
Yeah, they're building a mansion for you.
Yeah. And I'll start training some of the village youths in how to defend the village so that they don't need to rely on a scarecrow. And of course, word is going to start, you know, spreading about who I am and what I'm doing. And that is inevitably going to bring us. So of my father's supporters who survived and didn't just like completely forget about him, I think a lot of them have become some sort of brigand or outlaw. And I think there is going to be some point at which a relatively large force of brigands is moving on the village to attack me, because they perceive me as like a traitor to my father. And they're planning to burn down everything. But I think that what I've learned about being able to talk to people about my feelings, I'm going to succeed in talking down their leader and actually forging an alliance with them.
That's awesome. Yeah, Black Terran, the Bandit King, is able to be reasoned with, it turns out, when you share some of your complicated feelings about your heritage. I love it. Hooray! This has been Vow of the Knight-Aspirants. Thank you all for playing.
Awesome. Well, let's do our reaction roll. Reaction roll is a live stream inside of a live stream. It's our chance to sit down with the creator of a game we just played and talk about what it was like to play that game today. We just finished up playing Vow of the Knight-Aspirants, a game by Alexi Sargeant of Cloven Pine Games. Alexi, for people who are joining us after the beginning of our show, tell us a little bit about what Vow of the Knight-Aspirants is all about.
Sure. Let me go back to that concept that I discussed at the beginning of our play. In Vow of the Knight-Aspirants, you are squires on the cusp of knighthood, venturing into the treacherous bleak wood on a quest to prove yourselves worthy and discover the elusive and magical Tower Perilous. What wrongs will you right and lessons will you learn along the way? This is a Powered by the Apocalypse game of fantasy adventure inspired by Arthurian legends, fairy tales, and classic young adult fantasy novels. Tamara Pierce's Turtle books being one key touchstone.
Awesome. I had a great time playing, but let's meet our other players also and talk to them about what their experience was like. Also, if you're out there watching live right now or in the comments later, you are also welcome to drop in any questions you have about the game, the design, what it was like playing it, and we will answer any of those questions that we can, whether it's live here on air or later in the comm boxes. Let's start with Jose. Jose, why don't you tell people who you are, what you do, and what it was like to play Vow of the Knight-Aspirants?
Hey, everybody. My name is Jose, and I am a university professor. I teach psychology. And how was it to play Vow of the Knight-Aspirants? This was a lot of fun. I loved the lesson dynamics and thinking about our lessons in terms of shaping our characters. And I loved that we got to use so many of the different moves and the heart moves this time. And I was left, stars all around for my compatriots, my fellow squires. And thank you to you, Tony, for all the help with turning my narrative stuff into mechanical, making my narrative stuff actually turn into reality via some sleight of hand with mechanics, which was really helpful for me. I wish I had you on my shoulder every day in every game because I need you. And stars to Brian and Rosamund. Brian, I loved the scene with the Thild. It was very heart-wrenching. And Rosamund, I loved when I threw the blanket over you, that you rolled with it and did the whole claustrophobia thing, which we didn't get to explore, but at some point, maybe in the future we will. But it was a great way to respond to that. So yeah, I had a great time.
Awesome. Did you have any questions you wanted to ask Alexi about the game, the design, or anything else?
No, I don't think I have any questions emerging right now. If anything comes up, I'll let you know.
Let us know. Let's drop down to Rosamund. Rosamund, tell people who you are, what you do, where they can find you online, and what it was like to play Vow of the Knight-Aspirants.
Yeah, I am a YA fantasy author. I am on Twitter at Rosamund Hodge, all one word. And honestly, it was a lot of fun getting to play. It was kind of like writing a YA fantasy novel, except I didn't have to come up with a plot. And also, for me, part of the really fun part was that collaborating on a story where only one of the characters was the type of character that I write, and because everyone else was creating from their own personal palettes, and that, normally I'm only making up stories inside my own head, so it's all me. And it was really fun getting to have that collaboration.
Awesome. Did you have any questions that you wanted to ask Alexi?
Not really.
All right, cool. We'll keep on going over to Brian. Brian, why don't you tell people who you are and what it was like to play Vow of the Knight-Aspirants?
Hi, I'm Brian. I'm a software engineer and somebody who's known Alexi for a super long time at this point.
You gave a toast at my wedding.
This was not my first time playing, but I've enjoyed it every time. It's definitely at the point where it's one of those, it's what I love about PBTA, where it feels like I might as well be playing an OSR game. I just do whatever it was that my character was going to do anyway, and there just happen to be moves waiting for me when I get there. I love that. That's just it. It's really starting to sing. Everybody always talks about the playbooks, but I was really shocked how fast Person came together. I picked my book. I was one of the last to pick, and I just sort of looked at what stats were missing and was like, what combination of books will give us a little bit of valor and stuff. And then I just put those next to each other, and all of a sudden there just was a character concept. And I love the way the system does so much work to get me in the headspace of a character that I care about.
Awesome. Any questions you have?
I'm good.
Cool. Well, I had a blast also too. And again, Chad, if you have any questions, let us know. And actually, Daniel Feek just asked one in the chat. Said, love watching the game. How do you find balancing the economies of narrative lessons and heart and saving it up for big narrative moves? So how do you find balancing the economies of the narrative lessons and the heart and saving it up for big moves? Alexi, do you have a response to that? If not, I know that we may have some insight from players also too.
Yeah, I feel like it's on players to to keep track of the heart. I'll just say as the designer, I've been trying to tweak the triggers so that most players can get a couple of their gain heart triggers in a session. And some are like more niche than others, but I try to play to them a little bit as when I'm GMing, and often it'll feel pretty natural to accrue heart, and then I'm always like thrilled when people use the heart. You spending it to help people make some fun moments, but like saving it up and spending it on those big the heart powers is often how like situations get. Is often like how like the climactic moments play out when I'm running the game, and so it feels almost like it's a mechanic that creates like miniature moments of truth, which is a masks mechanic where a player character gets to like seize the spotlight and do something really cool. So I like how the spending 3 heart option can have that dramatic effect on a session. So yeah, that's some of my thought process as designer and GM, but I'm really interested in hearing about people on the player side. How are you thinking about gaining and spending heart, and what to budget it for?
I'm gonna hop in real quick, but I'd love to hear whatever people think. I love in PBTA games when you just get to make a move or do a thing, right? And I think a lot of times people who have played a lot of Powered by the Apocalypse games sometimes don't know how to do that. When I did some of the playtests with Avatar, when I played Sessions of Mass, people don't always know how to just make a thing happen or use a power. I think you always do a great job of really clearly making that obvious, just like, hey, it does what it does. And even sometimes in strict moves, or in this situation with heart, where you are just essentially stepping in and taking a narrative action that you have fiat as a player, it actually reminded me a whole lot of the way it felt to trigger ruin moves and apocalypse keys, which I would consider high praise, like where big things can just happen. Like I can just draw a mouth on a scarecrow using the weird ink on my lance. I just did that, right? Because that's how I chose. And that type of heft, I think, is really interesting. It also does, I think, one of my favorite things, which is like it lets the GM be very surprised, which PBTA games do well, but it's not the tension of waiting on a dice. It's what is the player choice that's going to shape what's going to happen right now. I thought that was a really cool thing. And I loved invoking the lessons, like looking for that and digging for, does this apply? And I think that's the part of the game that I would want to play 2 or 3 sessions to really get a sense of how often do I want to push people on their moves? How often am I triggering my moves? When do I want, because I was really towards the end looking for a way to defy one of my moves, just because there were a couple of things that we had bumped up against it, but we never got there, which is fine. But I would have loved to just explore that a little bit more. The hearts I felt like were super straightforward. The lessons I feel like have a lot more nuance, but after 2 or 3 sessions, when you have a lot of them, I think you'd be hitting them on a really regular basis after also too. Those are some of my kind of just initial observations. I don't know if anybody else had any thoughts on it though.
There really are a lot of ways to earn heart. And I think that I missed at the very beginning that having conditions adds to the set of ways that you can earn heart. And I think it's not a super, super rare currency, but you've got to be looking for a way to, keep your eye out for it. And having a mix of convicted and sort of destructive ways to feed into that really gives a player who's trying to squeeze one more heart in a couple of options, which I think is cool.
Especially if they've already voluntarily taken on a condition and therefore gained that additional little kind of like tempting way to gain heart by issuing a challenge in their wrath or fleeing in their fearfulness. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of that's new. That might be new from since the last time you play tested the game, Brian. And I liked having a sort of distinction between action you can take that clears a condition, which tends to be like more kind of positively valenced, versus action you can take while you have the condition that benefits you some other way, but leaves you with that condition, right? Kind of playing around with some of the ways conditions have been instantiated in different PBTA games. It's not quite like Brendan Leongabetta's Pasión de las Pasiones, where conditions give you a minus on some move but a bonus to a different move. But it's sort of thinking in the same way of like, what can conditions incentivize in addition to what do they detract from?
Any other thoughts?
I was kind of disappointed that I didn't get to use my part move because I felt that would be super dramatic for my character. But we kind of didn't get beyond the first act of the actual storyline.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there'll come a point where Isabel feels the need to give that command that cannot be disobeyed, and then like feels really weird about it afterwards.
I was super ready for you to just be like, kneel at the end.
He was already kneeling though.
He knew already. He didn't need that.
And so, it was like, I do really love the mechanic. I also love, like, I picked two classes that I felt like were a temperament and an aspiration that I felt like played really well, but it is fun just to see the different ways that all the different elements create really unique combinations for things. Not just from a stat perspective or, hey, here's the two abilities you check, but even from the way that the take heart and then spin 3 heart piece dovetail into each other, along with the different lessons that it kind of combines with each other. It's a super enjoyable pairing up that has a lot of layers to it. And I'm sure there's a lot of design rigor that needs to go behind like testing that out from a narrative perspective. But it's super enjoyable. I had a blast playing. I always do. I really, Lexi, always enjoy reading moves you have written is also always kind of a delight, and seeing what you're doing with different things. The difference between how the lessons work in this, the heart meta currencies, like there's elements in your design, especially for PBTA stuff, that are becoming more and more refined as you move from design, like from game to game that I have played of yours. I'm like I said, but I always just enjoy, even on basic moves that are sometimes like, okay, we know that we're going to have the martial move, and in this type of game, there's going to be a move that maybe doesn't just let you hit people, but does let you hit people, right? But then thinking, what do you do with that move to flavor it, theme it, and make it feel right? And this is always just really enjoyable to see it. But I think you, more than any other designer that I see doing PBTA stuff, does things like undergo an ordeal, right? Like it is a move, but it is literally a move where you just choose between which one of these two bad things do you want to have happen to your character right now. That's it.
Mixed things.
Yeah. Which one of these two mixed things? I guess
that's
true.
Which interesting direction do you want your character to get to go in the story?
Absolutely. But
you're right. I do love including moves like that.
Yeah, and I think I see them consistently in your design, and they're always some of my favorite moves that you write, because I do think it's a really singular proposition that isn't just dice dependent. And I think this goes back to some of like what Brian was saying earlier, like just playing it in kind of the OSR style, which I almost made a joke about at the very beginning. But this does feel like there's a lot of player agency in this that exists outside of even the very open way that Powered by the Apocalypse games normally offer it. Because like even like when Brian and I were going back and forth pushing on each other's moves, right? That created a space where you as the GM were just like, I don't have to do anything. Y'all can just trigger moves back and forth at each other, and we can all just kind of watch the narrative unfold in that, and it creates an interesting type of player-to-player interaction that isn't necessarily adversarial or even oppositional, and that's a really interesting place to exist in. I don't know, like I'm super excited to play more of the game. I would love to play a 2 or 3 so they can kind of see how things unfold a little bit more at some point in time.
That could be really fun. Tony, thanks so much for having me on. It's great to get to showcase this game on +1 EXP.
Yeah, awesome. We don't have any other questions that came in, but a lot of really positive comments in the chat. Thanks everybody who was here and joined us for the whole time. If you're watching later and you have questions, like I said, go ahead and drop them in the chat. We'll see if we can get an answer for you. Alexi, I think my question for you, people can go to the link down at the bottom of the screen or in the description to find out more. What are some of your hopes for where Vow of the Knight-Aspirants are going, and then we can log off for the night?
Yeah, so I really want to build it out into a nice little game. Love to partner with a publisher to put it out sometime in the not so distant future. The hope is that it kind of works as like a really good good one shot, but also like really good mini series where you could tell a story over 10, 12 sessions that explores these characters, shows their quest, and like culminates in a couple sessions of delving into or ascending the Tower Perilous itself, which would of course be designed to test all of the lessons that the squires have learned along the way. So writing up good kind of procedures and advice for GMs to like handle that style of campaign and that type of finale is kind of the project I have as I continue developing Vow of the Knight-Aspirants.
Awesome. Love it. Well, hopefully we'll get you back on soon to play a little bit more. I know that there are a lot of people on our channel who absolutely love your design, both players and viewers. So we'll look forward to that. Again, a couple things that you can do if you want to help support the channel. Follow us here on Twitch. Subscribe over on YouTube to catch up on the backlog of things we've played. Hundreds of different indie RPGs, including other things by Cloven Games. You can find those actual plays, short views, and other things over on our YouTube channel. If you want to help support us, you can go to +1exp.com. Anything you purchase there goes to help support the creator, the independent creator directly. It also goes to help support the work that we do and underwrite the channel. But until next time, we'd really encourage you to go to that short link down in the description. Check out Vow of the Knight-Aspirant. We don't have a good way to end streams, and at this point, we're not even really interested in figuring one out. We're all just going to wave at the screen until I take us off air. I even started with the right hand this time so that I don't have to move over to my mouse afterwards. Bye, everybody.